Good. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Linda, record of attendance. You're good, I know. Declarations of conflict of interest. For approval of agenda, additions or deletions. I'm just going to add 9A, the Ag Society decision, which I thought was on there, but it isn't. Anything else for additions or deletions? Motion to approve the agenda.
So moved with the addition.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion. Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Staff report, CAO report. Go ahead, CAO. I guess this.
I'm sorry.
No, but I thought I had it right this time.
I did it before you.
There you go.
Thank you, Worship. My report is attached to the agenda. It outlines the motions of council over the past several months and the progress that's been made on those motions. So if there are any questions, I would accept them now or at a later date at your choosing.
Any questions for the CAO? Councillor Dawes?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I just have 3 questions, quick ones. No, I'm down to 2. The truck route,
Yep.
are the trucking companies and the drivers, are they cooperating with this request?
I had passed the request on to the traffic authority who had not arranged the meeting with the truckers, and so I had communicated on that and asked that that be done this winter. So that one slipped through the cracks in the fall, but it is on the radar.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Do you have an idea of when you suspect that will take place?
I don't see why that can't happen in February.
Okay. Good. Thank you very much.
Good. Any more questions? Thank you. Fire Department report. We have it. Is the chief here? No? Okay. We know where to find the chief if we have any questions. Planning Department report. Hi, Caroline.
Hey everyone. So you should have copies of...
Yeah, can you pull that right in? Thanks.
Yep. I'll get used to that. You should have our November and December reports for the planning department in front of you. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Caroline? You're busy, I know that. You got a question? I don't see anything.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't know if it's a question or a comment or maybe a little of each. Caroline, did you have an opportunity to read the Vanguard over the last week?
Yes, I did.
Did you read the letters to the editor?
The what?
Letters to the editor.
I skimmed some of them, yes.
I think there was a letter there concerning, talking about town of Yarmouth red tape concerning 2 businesses that they said were stifled by the town of Yarmouth. I'm just wondering if you can have a opportunity to look at the Vanguard and look at the letters to the editor, and just if that jogs any memories or refreshes any memories, that let's have a look-see just to
I think I read the letter in question and I couldn't think of what they would be referring to.
Okay, good.
That's because we're not stifling. Okay, anything else for Caroline? Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Minimum housing bylaw request for decision. CAO?
Your Worship, the building inspector has prepared a request for decision under the minimum housing standards bylaw. There was a complaint, and in the building inspector's report, there are a couple of response options for council. Council has the authority to issue the order under this bylaw, and so the building inspector is unable to, on her own, issue the order without your endorsement. So your options are to deem 216 Main Street as being in violation of the town's minimum housing standards bylaw and direct the building official to serve written notice to the property owner, or that you can deem that there is not enough evidence of violation, and therefore there would be no written notice as an order. So you either agree with the building inspector's opinion, or you ask for more information if it's not clear, or you can simply disagree.
Thank you. Councillor McIsaac?
Thank you, Your Worship. I know the building, I know the person, and by looking here at these colored pictures, right, I know where it is, and it looks like it's in dire straits, the exits and the polling and that. We hire these professionals to give us professional opinions, and I feel very comfortable, very confident that this person knows what he or she's talking about, and by looking at what I'm looking here and reading what I'm reading, I have no problem in so moving that we accept and adopt the recommendation of our official building inspector to go forward with the recommendation.
Yes, option
Yes, option 1. Yes. Okay, go ahead, Councillor.
That was, I was going to speak
Okay.
to the motion, so I will second it. Thank you.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried.
Thank you, Worship.
Operational services. So, the engineer's not here? Okay, go ahead, because I have a question.
Your Worship, the engineer's on vacation this week. He's been away the entire week. He'll be back next week. But I did want to address, I did have a call from a member of the community who's present, Mr. Smith, asking about progress on the Argyle Street situation, and I thought I would do my best to give you an update on that. So the consultant's report that we heard and accepted talked about a couple of major significant issues to be addressed and gave us strategies for addressing them. The first one was with regard to water inflow into the sanitary system that was coming from a property up on Ellis, thank you, up on Ellis Road. An order has been issued to the owner of that property. Now, short before the order was issued, the property owner did take initiative. He was here during the presentation, and he did begin the investigation into the inflow of water from his property. As soon as the order was issued for him to take action and to remedy the situation, he was quick to respond and gave the engineer an update and exactly where he is with that, and that he had found an area where a manhole on the property was in fact receiving stormwater, and stormwater was inflowing at that location. So he's taking measures to address the issue, which is what, of course, we need. On the other one, it was Jarvis Road was the issue, and the flow of stormwater down off the hill, hitting Jarvis Road, surcharging the stormwater system. The recommendation there was to regrade the ditch on Jarvis Road and culvert the water across the road and take it down across the properties to Broadbrook through a ditch system as opposed to through the pipe system. With council's approval, we've purchased a property that is immediately adjacent to Jarvis Road so that we have the rights to ditch and to bring stormwater across that property. We have also entered discussions with 3 other property owners who need to grant us easements for ditching to reach the brook. One of the issues that they were concerned about is where would the water go once it went across their properties, and they wanted to see something done with the brook itself. We have a report which has been shared with council about the brook itself and how to deal with the flooding at the brook at Argyle Street. The recommendation in that report was to add culverts to Argyle Street, the box culverts, to increase the number. And so in order for that to be effective, we need to widen the water course at Argyle Street And in the process, we'll be also applying, or in the process of applying to the Department of Environment for permission to do dredging along that section of Broad Brook. That permitting process is underway. We haven't got our permits yet, but our hope is to have it for the spring so that we can undertake that work. We believe once we have those permits in place that getting the easements from the property owners will be possible, and we'll be able to deal with that stormwater down Jarvis Road. The third bit, and Mr. Smith raised this with me, a question which I couldn't answer earlier in the week, but I can today, is what about the laterals that go into the sanitary sewer? The consultant had identified that a number of laterals extend into the sanitary main, and in doing so, they kind of restrict the flow of water and whatnot. And so I had our civil engineering technician contact a firm that does that work. The cost to do that work would be about $7,000. That is if they do it in the spring when they're normally mobilized to do. It's the same group that does video inspection and flushing of sewer mains. If we wanted them to do it immediately, the cost would increase by $5,000 to have them mobilized at this time of year. So the recommendation, I guess it's council's choice, but you could wait until the spring when they're mobilized and save $5,000, or you could have them come and do that work for an extra $5,000 this time of year. So those are the three items that I have to update you on that entire situation. We do also have Alex Lynch with us today, and he will be doing a presentation for you on stormwater. He is a specialist that works for Clean Nova Scotia, and he's got a range of, well, he wants to tell you about his project, but he also wants to talk to you about a range of options you have to deal with stormwater issues in the community. And I think that might be particularly informative in terms of making choices, council making choices on other measures we can take in the Argyle Street area.
Good?
Good. I'm good.
Okay. Councillor Dawes?
Thank you, Your Worship. Are you asking for council to give you comments on that, or get their input now, or do you want us to wait till later? Because right now I say to save $5,000 is saving in the wrong place.
It would be this one, the 7 or the 12. That's what you're asking.
Yes, yeah.
That's a.
Or would you rather us wait until the end of the presentation?
No, I don't think that you'll be impacted through the presentation for that. I think if you have an inclination that you'd like to spend the extra $5,000 to it's a time value question, and I suspect the people who live on Argyle Street would like to see you spend $5,000.
We think so.
And everything else that we're doing on this, we're doing as quickly as we can, because the issues have been there for a long time. For $5,000 to get it done rather than wait 4 or 5 more months.
Yes. No.
Perhaps good value for money.
Now, do you need a motion for that, or is this good enough?
You need the motion.
All right, then I will make that motion. And you will have the wording for that, because that's an awful big technical mouthful for me. The most important is that we do not save on any more time, nor on any more money. We have to get it done.
So the motion is to go forward with the laterals?
Reaming the laterals.
Okay. Moved and seconded by Sandy.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Good. Stormwater presentation. Alex Lynch. Oh, there he is. I didn't see you behind Frank. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Your Worship, I'd asked Alex to do a presentation for you today because of his area of expertise and engagement here. Very much correlates and is relevant to the issues that we're having on Argyle Street and perhaps other areas of the community. And I think you'll find it informative, and it may provide some food for thought for future directions on stormwater. So with that, Alex, I'll ask you to introduce yourself and your project.
Do I do it sitting here? Or?
Do it sitting right there. Please speak in the microphone.
Right. thanks for the introduction. So like Jeff said, my name is Alex Lynch, and I'm a project coordinator with the Clean Foundation.
Sorry, you have to, yeah.
Is that better?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I was asked to come here to do a brief presentation on the work that we're doing with stormwater in the town of Yarmouth. So just a bit of background. We are a nonprofit organization established in 1988. We were formerly known as Clean Nova Scotia. So we work to provide information and tools to inspire individuals to take action that add to a positive environmental change. So we work in 4 key areas: water, energy, waste, and transportation. And I'm the stormwater coordinator for our water department. So just to give you a bit of background or context into why the Clean Foundation is interested in stormwater, also to provide a bit of context for the rest of this presentation, the issue is really around development. So with an increase in development, we're seeing an increase in impervious surfaces. So they're replacing a lot of our native soils, vegetation, and tree coverage. And with that, we're seeing an increase in surface runoff. And to compound the issue, there's the projection for increased rainfall with climate change. So just to briefly touch on what the impacts are of this increase in stormwater runoff and why it's important to the Clean Foundation. The first is pollution. So there's an increase in pollution associated with runoff. So you can imagine all of the pollutants that are present on roadways are being collected by runoff, and then that's being discharged either directly into a water body. Also with that comes an increase in erosion and an increase in the amount of sediment loads that are being transported to local water bodies. And of course, the concern of flooding and property damage, and a general decrease in groundwater recharge. So something of particular importance is combined sewer overflow. So some of this might be obviously very familiar to some people here. So in a combined sewer system where you have stormwater and sewer, it has a certain capacity, so the amount of flow that it can carry. When it reaches that capacity, there's overflow valves that release that mixture of sewer and stormwater directly into the environment. And then in an uncombined system, the stormwater is basically being discharged into the environment untreated. So from a bigger picture, we need to look at different ways that developed areas can function more like an undeveloped area, where you have a forest that functions like a sponge for collecting stormwater. So the question lies in how can we make cities more function more hydrologically like a forest. So there's an approach to stormwater management. It's referred to low impact development or green stormwater infrastructure. And it's an approach that looks at development or redevelopment that works by mimicking natural control methods to manage stormwater as close to the source as possible. So it works by preserving and recreating natural environments or landscapes, minimizing the amount of effective impervious surfaces, and treating stormwater as a resource rather than a waste product that we need to move out of our urban environments as quickly as possible. So just to reiterate why low impact development is important, it has the potential to protect rivers and streams. It can restore our watershed hydrology and has the potential to benefit water quality. It can also reduce stormwater infrastructure costs. So it can provide flood protection, and it can naturally treat water as well as reduce the amount of sewer overflows that the incidences that take place. So I'm going to refer to this as the low impact development green stormwater infrastructure toolbox. So all of these things that I'm going to discuss basically work to slow down, spread, filter, or soak up stormwater close to the source. So the first one is really on the property scale. So it's really retaining and restoring the amount of soil that we have. So traditionally, we develop properties by removing a lot of that topsoil and laying down sods, where there should be a focus on retaining at least 30 centimeters of topsoil, which acts as a sponge to collect some of that stormwater runoff. The next thing is dispersing runoff into landscapes. So instead of collecting it and dispersing it into a stormwater sewer system or a stormwater collection system, there should be a focus on dispersing that runoff into our landscapes on a private property or on a larger scale. The next thing is increasing the amount of tree canopy cover. So an urban canopy can actually slow down stormwater just by collecting stormwater on its leaves, but also uptaking a lot of that water. The next thing is bioretention techniques. So techniques that actually collect and treat stormwater on site. So these are such things as rain gardens and swale systems, which I'm going to discuss a little bit more in the following slides. The next is using permeable paving instead of impervious surfaces. So there's a lot of different options for types of paving that actually allow stormwater to infiltrate instead of running off. And then cisterns and rainwater harvesting. So these can really promote the use of stormwater on a property scale or as well in a business. And this can be through the use of rainwater for flushing toilets, actual household use, or they can just work as means to collect stormwater and slowly allow it to discharge in the environment. So cisterns can actually have low flow orifices installed that when the tank's filled, it allows it to drain very slowly and has enough room for the tank to fill up during the next storm. So going back to the bioretention cells, these are basically depressions with amended soil and plants that infiltrate and naturally treat runoff from roofs and pavements. So this series of photos is a rain garden that was constructed at Dalhousie University. It's constructed by myself as well as members of the Ecology Action Center and the Dalhousie Sustainability Department. And this area was of particular importance because it was a low-lying area where water tended to flood, and there is a storm drain located in the very first photo, but the water never actually reached this photo to drain. So what we did is we built dug a 3-foot ditch. We trenched the bottom of it and filled it with gravel, and then filled it with soil and planted a bunch of native water-loving plants. So the idea was that stormwater would run down the road, and we actually cut out the curb in a few locations. So the stormwater would run into the rain garden, and the layer of gravel would allow the water to actually infiltrate, and then some of the plants would take up some of that stormwater. And then the storm drain act as an overflow. So during really heavy rainfall events, there was a location that stormwater could overflow. But the idea was that water was infiltrated into the ground, as well as those plants were taking up some of that stormwater and returning it into the environment. So the next is really at a neighborhood scale, and this is referred to as bioretention swales. These are typically installed on roadways where you have traditional ditches that have compacted soil. So water would run into the ditch and basically run over that compacted soil. So the idea with the bioswale is you're actually digging the ditch deeper, you're installing a layer of gravel, and then you're planting a series of native water-loving plants on top of that gravel and soil layer. And the idea is that water runs into this ditch, and instead of running over the compacted soil, the gravel allows for infiltration, and the plants are actually taking up some of that stormwater. So very similar to the rain garden, but this is installed more on a neighborhood scale and on a roadway system. So you can actually take out pieces of your curb system, and the water is being treated and collected on site rather than being discharged into your stormwater system. The next is really looking at it from a watershed scale. So it's incorporating bioretention basins and stormwater constructed wetlands that allow for excess stormwater to be stored, and some of the sediments and pollutants that are in that stormwater to be retained. And this acts as a natural filter. So these are engineered to have a certain amount of stormwater running into the system, and then they have a drain on the other side. So it's a controlled system where they know how much water is coming in and how much is going out. So on the property scale as well as the watershed scale, all of these things need to be integrated into a comprehensive drainage system within the watershed. So none of these techniques are the answer to a stormwater management problem, but as a whole, they can really work together to effectively minimize the amount of stormwater runoff that you have. So I was also asked to just touch on a few different initiatives that I thought might be relevant to the town of Yarmouth. So the City of Toronto is implementing a mandatory downspout disconnection program where they're requiring residents to disconnect their downspouts from their stormwater system. The District of Saanich on Vancouver Island has a stormwater bylaw where they're minimizing the amount of impervious surface that can be on a development or a redevelopment, as well as a mandatory soil amendment program. And they're also incorporating detention regulations of runoff into their bylaws. So they're enforcing the use of things like rain gardens and rainwater harvesting on the property scale, where a certain amount of rainwater has to be detained before it gets released into the stormwater system. The next is the City of Vancouver. So in response to Metro Vancouver's, so this is the water and wastewater utility of Vancouver, in response to their integrated liquid and water resource management plan. This plan was undertaken to implement a plan to manage and control stormwater runoff. And in response to that, the City of Vancouver began the process of developing their integrated stormwater management plan. And it really works to treat rainwater as a resource. So they want to reduce the demand for potable water by encouraging beneficial use of stormwater. So they're encouraging new buildings to actually use the stormwater in their development to do things such as flush toilets and remain on site rather than being discharged into the environment with a rainfall. And they're looking to restore the role of urban watersheds and their natural ability to treat stormwater. And then, of course, there's the option for an incentive program or a fee system. So the City of Victoria, so the City of Vancouver and the City of Victoria, both of these plans, they took a number of years to develop. So they were a multi-stakeholder approach. They involved the community, nonprofits, and in Victoria, they developed a fee program where you're charged a stormwater fee. Everyone's charged a stormwater fee. But in return for effectively managing stormwater on your property, you can receive a certain amount of money off of that stormwater fee. So it effectively creates an incentive program, and then the reserve of money that they get from this program works as a stormwater backup fund. So now just to touch on some of the work that we're doing. This summer we were funded by Intact Insurance to do a residential stormwater program. So this was a free program offered to homeowners in Yarmouth, and the idea was that we were going to individual households and discussing problems that the homeowner was having with flooding and stormwater on their property, and then we were providing them a set of recommendations for ways that they could reduce stormwater, and where we were recommending that these techniques be implemented. So it was really focused on some of the low impact development techniques that I had previously discussed. Unfortunately, this program didn't have as much uptake as we would have liked. The timing of the program, it was late in the summer when it was implemented, and we think a lot of people had already made landscaping changes to their property. Also, this program, we've done it in Halifax a few years, and we've received additional funding to offer some sort of incentive. So we offered a free rain barrel if someone took part in the program. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough funding this year or last year to do that, so it was just a free, more information program. So this year we received funding from RBC and TD Friends of the Environment, as well as IBANs, and the town of Yarmouth has assisted us as well. And this program is really a 4-phase program. The first phase is right now we're doing a youth engagement portion where we're visiting schools throughout the Tri-County School Board, and we're hosting stormwater workshops and allowing students to develop a stormwater management plan for their school. And then we're returning in the spring to do things such as tree planting, installing such things as rain gardens and bioswales to treat stormwater on their property. We learned from the Rainyards 2014 program, as well as the programs that we had in Halifax, that we needed a series of demonstration sites to show residents the different options that they have for managing stormwater on site. So we're developing a series of demonstration sites in the town, one of which we're installing a rainwater harvesting system at the community garden at Beacon United Church, and this will hopefully be able to be a workshop location for residents. And then we're hosting a series of community workshops this summer, so one of which is going to be a build your own rain barrel workshop where residents can come, and we'll be retrofitting old barrels into rainwater harvesting barrels, and they get a free rain barrel out of this program. We're also coming up with a few other workshops that will be related to stormwater. And we're also developing our Rainyards program for this summer, so We are in the phase of doing that, or in the stage of doing that right now. We don't know how that's going to look yet. Because of last year's program, we want to see if maybe an incentive offered to residents is the best way to approach this. However, we're still planning that. So that concludes my presentation. If anyone has any questions.
Thank you. Comprehensive. Any questions? Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Hi, Alex. Nice presentation.
Thanks.
Would you, as easily and as quickly as you can, could you give me the basics on permeable paving?
Sure.
My first vision of that is, okay, we've got pavement on the ground, it's got holes in it, it allows the water to go through, but if we get a cold snap and it freezes,
Yes.
I could see problems.
Yeah, so there's different types. Some of it's adapted for this climate, so it can be used in this type of climate. In terms of the actual type, I'm not 100% sure. So there's providers that or contractors that offer it in Nova Scotia, so you can use permeable pavement here. In terms of the freeze and thaw problem, I'm not sure how they work to rectify that, or how their technology avoids that, but there is definitely some contractors that offer it.
All right, okay. And how would you, or have you any experience already? I know that there are residents everywhere all across Canada, some here, quite a few here, that have been having difficulty with their homeowners insurance because of flooding. And in fact, their coverage, they've been denied coverage. How would individual resident participation in this program, do you think that would have any positive impact on their insurance companies and how they view them? Or do you have any experience with that yet?
Unfortunately, I don't have any experience with that. The only thing was we had funding from an insurance broker to do our rain yards program, just because of the amount of insurance claims that were coming through, but I have no experience with that, unfortunately.
Okay. It would be interesting to know. It would be good
It would
to know.
be
It would be
very,
helpful. Yes.
yeah.
Is there any way that you could get that information?
Sure, yeah, I can definitely look into it. So my
And-
managers work closely, or have worked closely with Intact Insurance and IBANS, the Insurance Broker Association
Okay.
in Nova Scotia, and I'll look into that further.
You'd let us know?
Yeah, I will.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good. Any more questions? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh,
Thank you.
sorry, I can't see you. You have
Nope,
to
that's
hit
fine. I hit it late. So the point, one of the points of Alex's presentation, other than just general background knowledge, is that there are things that we can do, that people can do voluntarily on their own. There are things that we can do through delivery of programs. There are things that we can do through policy, and there are things that we can do through bylaws. And Alex touched on a number of those initiatives, how those things could be delivered effectively in the town of Yarmouth is kind of the question, and not for you to answer today, but for us to think about and come back and talk about those options that Alex presented, how they could or should be or might be delivered in the town, and kind of where council's appetite is for either provisions in land use bylaws and development processes, or policies that we will do, like permeable asphalt, if that were a direction we wanted to go, and then the education programs or rain barrel programs. Those are things that cost money and can provide incentives. So we'll come back in the future with a list of those initiatives that he kind of touched on, and kind of test your appetite in terms of where you would like us to go over the next little while with those.
Thank you. Finance Department report. How we doing, Jerry?
No report right now. In the final stages of, I guess, our conversion of the new system, just have some reconciliation where we brought over some balances. So a few outstanding issues there, and really we have to get that done before I can really press on with getting some reports to you. So it's been a priority for us this week, and our friend at Town Suite has said that if we don't get it done this week, that he will look at coming down for a couple days next week to make sure it's done by then. So that's where we are with that.
Good. Any questions for Jerry? Thanks, Jer. You do? Okay. Yarmouth Recreation Report. Frank, welcome.
Just a couple things. This time of year, every year, we always try to encourage people to be active outside. So we do have a Take the Roof Off winter campaign that's currently happening with some activities planned for this weekend. But if you look outside, not a lot of white stuff. So we may, obviously, a lot of the snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, igloo making are all snow dependent. So we may have some changes with that, and we'll make sure we keep everyone up to date with the plans there. The Recreation Department this time of year is very busy with budget planning for the upcoming year, various grants, program grants, employee grants, and working with community groups to assist them with their programs and events that they're planning. So, but we've also got lots of activities happening. We have youth night activities for children and youth happening in 3 local schools. We've got an After the Bell after-school program happening at Maple Grove for junior high females. We've got some rugby starting to percolate locally, looking to do some community rugby. Recently, through our Yarmouth Shelburne Recreation Directors Association, we've been able to purchase some sledges for sledge hockey and equipment that will be able to do some sledge hockey programming. So lots of different things. Looking forward to a busy summer that's coming forward. So always something happening.
There is. Any questions for Frank? Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Last year at one of our meetings, we talked about bikes, recycled bikes, I think there was. People using them, not having enough bikes.
Yes, and that's being addressed once again for the, I think it's the 3rd annual. We've been doing a walk and wheel fest in conjunction with Nova Scotia Bike Week. That will be happening the first week in June, and that's one of the initiatives that we want to look at and trying to work with Waste Check on the number of bicycles that are being put out at spring and fall pickups, and trying to make use of those bikes that people are throwing away and getting them in the hands of people that can use them.
Do you have a budget for that? Do you have a budget set aside for monies for fixing them, or do you look for donations?
No, most of that is just basically donations of time for people that are willing to help repair bikes, and there's no real funding.
Do you have a non-charitable status receipt that you could issue to people if they were interested in making a donation for that cause?
We don't, we're not a charity, but
the municipality does, the town does?
We can issue a receipt. I don't think it's a charitable receipt, but
Okay.
if someone does donate.
Yeah, that's what I want to ask. The CAO, could you just say on that? I want to talk to them just a little bit more on that.
No, just quickly, municipalities can issue receipts for charitable donations that you can use on your income tax.
Okay, and the town can also?
The town or any municipality in
Okay,
Nova Scotia.
great. So there's an avenue. The RCMP, the lost or stolen or whatever, the people that don't collect their bikes, do you talk with them and see about getting bikes and that? Are they forthcoming, or do they sell them, or would they give them to you, or what? How do they work it?
Usually every couple of years, there's a number of organizations that they, when the RCMP, both town and municipal, seize or recover stolen bicycles and no one claims them, every couple of years they'll contact us and give us 4 or 5 of those.
Yeah.
We try to repair them the best that we can. We've given them
Okay.
out to children that are in need. And some of them are to the point where they're not really repairable, so we've taken parts off of some, put them on others. But We don't, it's not a regular occurrence because the
Okay.
RCMP have other partners that they donate to.
So probably at our next meeting, perhaps we could put that on our agenda for recreation?
Sure.
Just put that down so we can discuss it and see about donations and stuff like that. Maybe we can get that out to the public.
Sounds like a great idea.
Thank you very much.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Economic development. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. Sorry for the late distribution of my staff report. Has everybody had a chance to read it? If not, I can summarize.
You can summarize. I think it was just put here, so that's fine. We know you were away.
Thank you. Well, number one, good news is that our office is actually building some traction within the business community. And what I mean by that is that they're actually seeking our office out. And to date, I have 7 business clients that I've been working with. And they run the gamut with regards to what industries they're from: retail, small-scale manufacturing, hospitality, food services, and food retail. In addition, on my lens right now, there's a couple of other clients that have actually just approached me, and they're in the areas of gaming, language training, and 2 large-scale retailers. So I'm happy to report that people are seeing the value of economic development in the town. I guess in addition to that, building awareness for what we do, and one of the things that I've initiated with the Rotary Club as well as with the Chamber of Commerce is trying to meet with them regularly to present to their group as to the incentives, what we do, and what we have up and coming. In December, we actually acted upon the action and have completed the half-page ad that we've submitted for the Book of Lists. At the back, the last page, you'll see the copy, the ad copy that went into it. That would be the bottom portion of the ad. The top portion would just show town statistics. That should be coming out shortly. We'll get a bunch of copies, and it'll be available digitally that we can also use wherever we would like. Working on a 2015 marketing and communications plan and budget, and that will be part of our budgeting process that we all go through. Really, a lot of that is to do with how do we promote the town once we get all of the different types of development collateral ready. And I can speak to that a little bit more when I get under projects. One of the big things that I've been focusing on, in addition to the other items, is the collaboration that having with the Western Regional Enterprise Network, and that's the REN, as well as with NSBI. As you're all aware, the REN is currently starting to build their organization. They've hired an EDO, Gilles Babin, and they've also selected a consultant to start to work on the regional economic development strategy. So we, as the town, will certainly play a key part as a stakeholder to identify how we fit in there and what pieces would become part of our plan. I am also in parallel developing what the Yarmouth Economic Development Plan will look like and what our unique economic opportunities will be. Part of that is, as I've mentioned in previous reports, is pulling together the collateral, the investment readiness collateral for the town. And we are working with McSweeney Associates. And our asset mapping is pretty well complete. I'm just reviewing some information right now, and that should be done next week. Once that's completed, we'll start to move into the community profile area. And probably what I'll do next time is actually show you a sample of what that would look like. Dependent on getting that completed is our branding style guide, because that'll be needed towards the end of it, and critical to the look and feel. Just general program updates. Our master blueprint program, phase 2 implementation, submitted an application to a COA just to support us in some of the funding related to that. The facade incentive program, we have now delivered over 27 application packages to our business community, focused in the core business district. And streetscape tender package is pretty well 99% completed, and we should be going out to tender with that in the next 2 to 3 weeks upon our town engineer's return. And the branding identity, I think you'll be happily surprised. You've got some of those in your packages. Ian is here from 4Media to present. Next is an action that I'm following up through to investigate the feasibility and use of the Yarmouth High School. So more to come on that in February's COW meeting. And lastly, spending some time to work with YASTA in collaboration. One is on a brand identity program. So for you all to know that what we're doing is not in isolation with what they're doing. Both teams have met. We've exchanged information with regards to stakeholder feedback and, continuous synergy on that. The other thing is looking at all areas of where we can cross-benefit from different organizations to do economic development marketing, and one of those is with YASTA, that we can leverage events that they're hosting in the town to use some of that audience to tour the town, to market the town, to present the town for business and living. So that's sort of my focus to date and continuing into this quarter.
Awesome. Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Great report, thank you, and glad to see you back, and I hope things are going well.
Thank you.
YASTA, how are things going with YASTA? They have a new manager as last year, and you're new this year. You're both getting along pretty good. Sometimes he's hard to deal with, I know. But are you working
Neil
well
is my
with him?
idol. Neil is my idol.
He's your idol, yeah. He used to be mine when he was a councillor,
Yeah.
but
Actually, extremely effectively. Is Neil in the audience?
yeah, I think, there he is, yeah.
I think there might be a lunch in there, Danny, for that one. Actually, really effectively, because tourism is certainly one of our key sectors, but more importantly, the spin-off from tourism with regards to bricks and mortars type of businesses is really key. So it's understanding what the value chain is, and Neil and I really connect that way, as well as with his team.
Yes.
So this is where I really look for us to leverage that, not just beyond the high season, but all year long.
He has a lot of knowledge in branding and what have you, and all that other good stuff, and I hope you're taking a lot of advantage of him and his talents.
Yes, we're both the Extreme Media Group and YASTA, 4Media, and the town of
Great.
Yarmouth are working together.
Great. Now, one more thing, and I'll be quiet on this subject. The high school.
Yes.
I watched an interesting program the other day on PBS, I think it was, and it was for old schools like the old school here.
Right.
But this is in a heck of a lot better shape than the one I've seen.
Absolutely.
And the old school was similar to, I'll date myself, that people that went to the old South End School in Yarmouth, it was an old academy there. It was a wooden structure, and it was the one that they, in the States, that they done over. They interviewed one of the women that were there, and she remembered her class was in grade primary. And the building was in somewhat of a disarray, and what they done was, as a community and as governments got together and looked at that structure and said, this could be a place where we could put senior housing, town housing, and other entities that were in there, like little boutiques and stuff like that, and it worked really well. Now what they're doing in this state, and they're going to other states, is recycling these old buildings and doing the exact or other different things, rather than they're selling them to the public, to entrepreneurs, and let them do the work with the supervision and help from the municipal units and government. So I like what you wrote in here, and I just hope that you consider one of those as an option also.
Well, Well, I think part of the research and investigation is to look at all options.
That's right.
So it's not to limit or exclude.
Good.
And
Yeah.
then for each of the options to bring back to council, what is the feasibility
Yeah.
from a zoning, from
Yeah.
an inspection, and then maybe some high-level ballpark costing of it.
Yeah.
Some might be prohibitive just because of the current zoning,
Yeah.
or it might be an opportunity for us to relook at the zoning. So I guess my approach, based on the request from council, is
Yeah.
to identify all potential opportunities. And actually, I have been looking at a couple of different urban reuse programs that they've
Yeah,
had in
okay.
Detroit and other areas.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're already getting a lot of interest.
It was really interesting to see what they've done to the building.
Excellent. Maybe I'll check that out on
Yeah.
pbs.org.
Yeah, okay, good, thank you.
Thank you.
Your worship.
Thank you. Go ahead, Deputy. Okay, wait a minute, Councillor Dennis.
Okay, sorry. I was just wondering, since we're talking about the school, are you looking into like a training facility or incubator businesses?
Absolutely.
Because it would be less expensive instead, like if you were going to do housing or whatever, it's going to cost a lot of money, but if we keep it as a school facility, it will cost a lot less. So,
Those are definitely on the radar.
okay, thanks.
Thanks,
A Maple
Natalie.
Leaf training facility, is that what you said?
You're going to put this online,
Not
so we
enough
can get it
money.
online? Will this eventually?
The report? Yes,
Yeah.
Linda has it.
Okay, thank you. And a very good report. Thank you.
Thank
again.
you.
Good. Thanks, Natalie, very much. Mariner Center. Welcome, Gil.
Well, thank you. Typically, I'm not here to give reports, but in this case, I'm here looking for some support. The reason I'm here today is that last year, or just over a year ago, I guess, that the town had tasked the Mariner Center Management Board to put together a strategic plan moving forward into the future. Where do we see ourselves 5, 10 years down the road? So at that time, I had already engaged in a fairly good relationship with Rick Allwright from YASTA. We have similar interests, I believe, and so I've been working with Rick, both in his capacity with as the events coordinator with YASTA, and also his role as the president of the Yarmouth Curling Club. And just to give you an example, some of the things that we're working on presently is we've got an application or bid in for the World Sledge Hockey Tournament for 2016, the Canadian National Judo Championships, which would be a 3-year, if we could score that, we'd have it for 3 years in a row, Canadian Mixed National Curling Championships, and also the Canadian Pilots and Owners Annual Fly-In and General Meeting. So those are 4 sort of very large events that we bid on and hope to secure in partnership with YASTA, and of course Mariner Center would be an integral part of that. So when the board was tasked to produce this plan for the future, we looked at it from the point of view of let's engage some partners. So I think I'd like to, if I could, we just had our online brochure completed. Needs a little bit more tweaking. But I just wanted to give you an idea, because I think it's important before we talk about where we're going to be in the future for you to take a look at what you own now. And I think you'll be quite proud of the product. There's not many communities that can boast the kind of assets that the Mariner Center has, and so you should be very pleased with what you presently own. I don't know how I'm changing pages here. Anyway, this is the online brochure that's basically available, and as you change, which one am I doing, Jeff? Okay, fine, thank you. So basically, it's just flip through the pages, back and forth. There's a management message. I won't read everything to you, the text, but you'll see some pretty delightful pictures there. What you won't see in this is a lot of attention given to the fact that it's also an ice arena. We don't really need to market ourselves as an ice arena. We need to market ourselves for the other kind of events and the other kind of capabilities that we have. So the brochure basically features some of the other things that have occurred at the Mariner Center. And for the most part, we're pretty pleased. You will notice that the World Junior A Challenge, of course, is mentioned because that was a large event 2 years in a row. But for the most part, we strayed from the hockey and figure skating venues because people already know us. We already have our mark made in that field. So talks about the conventions and galas, the other things that were, and two comments when I show this brochure to people. Two of the comments that two questions that have been put to me. Somebody said, "Is this an arena?" And somebody else said, "Is this in Yarmouth?" So I think you should be very proud, and this is the list of equipment, of course, that's available. The brochure is available online, as I said. You just go to our website, go under the events venue rentals, and you can hit the download tab, and we'll be improving on the ability to access that in the future. Jeff ran into a snag this morning where we had maxed out on the number of visits, and he couldn't get anywhere, but we're in the process of changing to a different service provider, so that'll be fixed. But I just felt it was important for you to know what your assets were already, what you already, at this point in time, what you already own. And so this will change and adapt and grow, and the reason we did it online rather than a print version is because it is easy to make amendments and when we need to. Rick was unable to be here today, by the way. He wanted to be sitting beside me here today, but he's in Boston on behalf of YASTA. So I guess the first step that we took in trying to put together this plan, we felt that it was important to engage community partners. So in October of last year, the management board hosted a meeting at the Mariner Center and invited a cross-section of people from the community. There was approximately 30 to 35 community people there. It included the Mariner Center Management Board, obviously, as the hosts, representatives from the YMCA, the swim team, various service clubs, other sporting organizations, municipal representatives, of course, the CAOs, CFOs, and the mayors and wardens were there, and as well the Nova Scotia Department of Health and Wellness in the form of Debbie Smith and ACOA, a few people that couldn't make it. We felt we had a really good, well-rounded group. In front of you, you will find the results of that meeting. Basically, the first thing that happens, and if you look at this this graphic, basically what the graphic tells you is that the larger the letters, the more people said that. So if you look at, for example, some of the larger ones, it says curling, pool, track, indoor track. Those larger words, the larger text means that more people wanted a pool, for example, than wanted bike rentals. So that just gives you an indication. And the next two pages is just a list of the items that were mentioned during that meeting. So basically what we did was we had about 30-some people in the room. We broke up into groups and discussed what would you like to see on this property, on the 9.5 acres that you jointly own with the municipality of Yarmouth. Where do you see the Mariner Center property in a few years' time, and what would you like to see happen here? From that meeting, a plan of action was developed, and the first step of that plan of action, what was recommended, was that we do a needs assessment. And that was a recommendation that came from the province. They said what you should do now is do a needs assessment, find out what it is exactly, precisely that the community needs, and what would address the community needs going forward. We know, for example, that our curling club is basically, going to reach the end of its lifespan in the near future. I don't think it's a secret. I don't think I'm telling tales out of school to say that we're probably underserved as far as a swimming pool and facility. So those are the kind of things that we want to look at is what do we need in that property. The recommendation to do a needs assessment, of course, comes with a commitment, and that's a financial commitment. So we met with Debbie Smith from the province of Nova Scotia. She had indicated at the time that she would attempt to find 50% funding for that needs assessment. Since that time, we've, for budgetary purposes only, we've contacted a company in Halifax who does that kind of work. And the estimate is $28,000 roughly, and $28,000 NHST, but $28,000. We have confirmed with Debbie Smith that the province is prepared to fund 50% of that. and they would prefer to see that funding in this fiscal year. They would like to advance that immediately. So following the needs assessment, of course, we would go into a feasibility study. And the needs assessment would, by the way, also identify what funding sources would possibly be available out there. But after the needs assessment, we would obviously want to do a feasibility study to see if we can support something like the developments, what development do we need, and if we can support it, how do we get there? We have early indications from ACOA that they are interested in funding that portion of or that phase of the project. So I'm being encouraged to move this forward. I don't know what that means.
What's your ACOA number?
Pardon?
What's your ACOA number? That's not 50, is it?
No, actually, for the
50%?
feasibility study, I think they were prepared to, the early indication that they were prepared to fund the whole thing
Okay.
for the feasibility study. So what we're looking at today is if we could get a financial contribution from the town of Yarmouth in the amount of $7,000, we'd be seeking a similar contribution from the municipality of the District of Yarmouth. And with those funds, we would be able to move the needs assessment forward.
Good?
Yep, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. My first question would be to the CEO. We don't usually make decisions of financial things right away like a committee in the whole. So we haven't been. I don't think we set a precedence. And it's not that I'm not in favor of it, because I am. I'm glad that you had a meeting and you had a lot of people that were there, people from all walks, which is great. I mean, I would have liked to have known, because I would have definitely went if invited, but that's all right. I had great thoughts of that place out there that I'd like to have seen and see. Hopefully I will. One would be maybe partnering with a big chain hotel, motel, whatever, right? And, you know, you have it all under one roof. When you come to Yarmouth, it's a destination now, but it would even be a bigger vacation destination where everything under one big roof. I could foresee a big chain hotel with 400 or 500 rooms or whatever that's there, being a partner with the Mariner Center for part of maybe the big Olympic swimming pool, the big slides, the kiddie slides, all that good stuff. I can visualize that. I can see it because I've seen it in other places. I can see walking trails all around. I can see indoor tennis courts. I could see not skating rink, but curling rinks. I can see all that. And we got 9 acres out there. There's land out there that can be utilized and can be worked with. I think there are partners out there that can be pretty much persuaded to get on board and come. But if they don't know, they won't. But I can see great and wonderful things for that place out there. And I'm glad that you're taking this on and bringing it to council to give us a vision of what the Mariner Center's potential is. From where it was, where it is now, it's day and night all together. And I mean, I can see good things happening. Real good things happening. You've done good since you've been the manager out there for the last few years. You have a good committee, you have a good working group. Things are running pretty good. You're penny conscientious. You're all for the Mariner Center, and your board is too. And I can see good things happening out there, but I'd like to see a bigger vision. And what I mean by that, I don't know how big your vision is, but I got a wild imagination. My wild imagination sees wild and wonderful things out there. But and I say that, being a father and a parent and a grandfather, we would go away, and the smallest places would be to Digby. I bring my kids up there because they had a big slide and a pool and the restaurants and everything. Everything was there that we needed. We wouldn't have to go far, because kids wanted to swim in the pools, indoor, and the big slide. And that's what we plan our vacation around that. There's nothing to stop anybody from coming from wherever, from across the sea, from wherever, to come to Yarmouth and say, we can go skating, we can go curling, we can do just about anything. And we can watch our kids while they're swimming in the pool, while we're doing our exercise by walking around. So I'm glad you're taking this upon us. I have full support in what you want to do. So I'm on board. Thank you.
If I may respond. First off, Dan, I want everybody to know that we didn't try to exclude anybody, but we tried to keep the meeting manageable, and we wanted to make sure we had a cross-section of people. The true public consultation will take place, I believe, through the needs assessment process, but we just wanted to get the ball rolling. You said that I had a vision. I think the things that you can see, you've probably got a vision as well. And when we first started the meeting, we opened it by saying, let's imagine Disneyland North, and we'll pare it down from there. So yeah, let's put everything on the table. And I think you'll notice on the list that hotel and restaurant is actually included on the list. So somebody else in that room felt that was
It was Phil.
Okay, it was Phil. I will say too, I didn't expect an answer today. I just, it was the CAO's
Okay, so,
suggestion that I come in, and that's why I'm here.
you're going to answer the question, right? Go ahead.
Well, I'm not sure what the question is, but
Thank you.
I'll suggest that, as the councillors pointed out, we don't make decisions on the day of presentations. However, what I would undertake to do would be to add this item as a decision item on the council meeting agenda in 2 weeks' time.
Yes.
I so move that we make this presentation, his ask, to be put on the next council meeting within the next 2 weeks.
Good, Linda? Okay,
That's my motion.
okay. Yeah, the 7 and 7.
But we can't wait for the municipality. When if we're
No, I
going
know, I've
Make
got
our
no,
own
yeah, we'll make our own decision.
I've got no problem with
Yeah.
that, and I support Gil 100%.
Yeah, I think we are.
The only other thing is just in terms of the go-forward process, is we have a new partner out there now. How does that work?
Yeah, yes and no, go ahead.
We have an operational partner. We don't have an ownership partner.
Okay.
But I think, the way we discussed capital when we talked about that agreement was that would be on a case-by-case basis. I mean, they haven't closed the door entirely to capital participation. They, in fact, have participated in the capital that is out there now during the original construction. So I think they would want to be part of the discussion, and their citizens and residents and our customers, part of the discussion about the needs and feasibility. So they should be engaged in the process.
Okay, and just one other question that has to do with Gil and the Mariner Center to the CAO. When we go over our budget process again this year, we'll have all department heads coming in again?
If that is council's desire, we'll line it up, sure.
Yeah, because I think there's some other questions outside of this line that I might have for the Mariner Center, and I think there's another councillor might have a question or two also, but I think it'd be good to have everybody in.
I agree.
Okay.
So you good?
Yep, thank you.
Thanks. Present? Oh, sorry, I need a seconder.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Healthy eating in municipal and recreation settings. Welcome.
Thank you. So do you all know, I'm Misty James. I'm with Yarmouth Recreation.
And I'm Jane Cunningham, and I work for Public Health.
And I'll bring our presentation up. And while I'm doing that, if you remember last time we talked to you, we presented our findings from resident surveys, focus groups, and some stakeholder discussions within Yarmouth and Shelburne counties about healthy eating and recreation in municipal settings. And at that time, we asked for your support in preparing a policy. We also asked for representation from council on a policy reference group that was staff and councils from Yarmouth and Shelburne counties. So Deputy Mayor Jim McLeod stepped up, and he was part of that process. So this is the draft policy that we've come up with. You should have copies, and we just want to kind of talk to you how we got there and what we found. And if you have any questions, we're more than happy to answer them.
Okay, so with this policy, we have the chance to contribute to the health of our community by making it easier for people to eat healthy foods and beverages where they live, work, and play. So other public institutions in the province are already there, so they already have a policy in place, or they're in the process of creating one. So you would have other municipal and recreation settings. So what's really exciting is that in the past year in the Tri-Counties, the only councils that have not passed a policy yet are, let me see, Shelburne Town, Yarmouth Municipality is still in their decision-making process, and we're presenting to you today. So between Digby, Yarmouth, and Shelburne, everyone has adopted a healthy eating policy. Public schools, licensed childcare settings, licensed childcare providers, district health authorities, universities, colleges, and provincial government departments. So as Misty mentioned, we did a lot of kind of background work before we created the policy, and so one of those pieces was finding out if there is an appetite for having more healthy food choices available in the recreation setting. And so 75% of people that were surveyed by telephone interview said that there should be more healthy choices available. 69% said that they would actually purchase that food. So it's one thing to think that you want healthy foods available, but would you actually purchase it? And then the top three reasons, or the top three factors that influence people's decision to purchase food within the recreation setting were freshness, prior experience with the food, so having had it before, and whether it's a healthy choice. Another stat is that 30% of people that were surveyed said that they bring their own food to the recreation setting. One of the top reasons because of the lack of healthy choices. So the environment that shapes us. Despite the unhealthy environments that we live in, we are told we just need to use our willpower to make healthier choices. We need to recognize that the choices we make are shaped by the choices that are available to us, where we live, learn, work, and play. And to make a real difference in the health of our communities, we need to create healthy environments for our citizens.
So if you've had a chance to review it, you'll see there are 12 policy components. It seems like a lot, but really a lot of them are small, easy things to do, and most, if not all of them we are doing in some capacity in some programs and meetings and that kind of thing. Almost all of them are clean drinking water. We're already doing a lot of this. So the scope. So this applies to all foods and beverages served and sold at municipal and recreation facilities, settings, programs, meetings, and events. So it includes those things. Now, I don't want to, it applies to things we program and we host and manage. So, for example, as far as tournaments and sporting events and hospitality suites, the only example, or I can think of very few examples of things that we have control over. One would be, for example, the Jumpstart ball hockey tournament. That would apply to that. Other organizations running events, we don't have that control. So just so there's any confusion, and if you might have questions around that, I just wanted to be clear on that. It's what we manage in our programs and our actual direct hosting. So like I said, the policy does not apply to community groups or individuals who are renting our facilities. I mean, our facilities are rented out every weekend for birthday parties and baby showers, and we certainly recognize that a policy cannot govern what those groups are doing and serving. However, we certainly can encourage them by having the facilities available that would give them those options to be able to prepare and keep healthy options for whatever they're doing. We've also done a lot of community work with organizations who are really interested in how do I make our community dinner healthier, or how can I get more young people like who are bringing their children, you know, how can I give them something that they feel good about? And so there has been, and we have had some training and some workshops on that as well. It does not apply to food and beverages brought from home or outside, so your lunchroom is not it's not going to be dictated in any way. It's free, and tea and coffee, just because it was too much work to start figuring out what tea and coffee is too important.
So you might be wondering, what does that mean for the actual food that would be served according to the policy? So what we've done is we've kind of followed examples from the school sector and other public institutions that already have policies. And we've categorized food into 3 different categories. So the first would be your maximum nutrition foods. So that would be at least half of the food choices that would be available in any recreation setting would be a maximum nutrition food. And the maximum nutrition foods would be your least processed, most basic, wholesome foods, no added salt, sugars, fats, no artificial sweeteners. So it would be things like your fruits and vegetables, it would be whole grains, lean meats. We have other examples to show you. So your moderate nutrition food items would be, it's not that they're a little bit less healthy. So they're not unhealthy, but they're a little bit more processed. So they might have some added sugar, salt, or fat. And then your minimum nutrition foods would be, this is the easiest category to explain. So it's your foods that really aren't providing any kind of nutritional benefit. They're really high in fat, sugar, and salt. So your chocolate bars and chips and pop. And then there's also an additional category, which we've called food and beverages not to be served and sold. And so what would be included in that, as an example, would be your energy drinks. So like Rockstar, Red Bull, which there's so much evidence out there to show that it's can be really harmful, especially for children and youth. So maximum nutrition foods. We have an example there of a fruit tray and a nice homemade chili made with lean meat. Other examples could be soups, homemade soups, could be paninis, it could be, there's lots of different options out there to have maximum nutrition food items. Your moderate nutrition food items, so this is a pizza made with white crust instead of whole grain, crackers, and a cheese, raw pie would fit here. So there's different examples that would fit into the moderate nutrition category. That's also the category where you're going to find your granola bars and your snacking crackers and that kind of thing. And the minimum nutrition foods, that's the easy one. So we have donuts and pop there. And then not to be served or sold would be our energy drinks. So to give you a real life example of what this would look, so if you take Canada Day as an example, and so we know that in this area, a lot of changes have already been made to Canada Day celebrations in terms of the food that's provided. So you need to click it again. So maximum food items.
Exactly.
You would have 3 items, would be 50%, your popcorn, watermelon, water. The moderate nutrition food items, so that's 2, would be a hamburger and some juice. And then your minimum nutrition food item would be your traditional Canada Day cake.
I think it's important also to talk about, it doesn't mean quantity of food. It means percentage of options available. So just so you're aware of that, because it is distinct. You don't have to have one piece of cake because you're only allowed 10% of it. So it's just, that's 10% of the options available to you are cake. Special functions, we have given a little more flexibility to this piece, so that's why we're pulling it out. Because there are special events that happen during the year, and because for cultural or traditional reasons, it's more difficult to get all those choices in there because you really want to serve the certain things that people expect. However, we have found that it's not that hard. The tree lighting, I can use this year's tree lighting as a very specific example of we followed the policy to the full extent, not this special extent.
What'd you have?
I had about 6 different kinds of fruit to go with that hot chocolate. I didn't have a lot of it, but everyone said thank you very much. It was freezing. It was frozen fruit at some points, but But we had cider too, and I made the cider with real apple juice. So
Okay.
yeah, I made moderate, healthy cider. So yeah, we were good. Yeah,
I've never dunked a banana in my hot chocolate, but that's good.
yeah.
Go.
They were really happy. Actually, it was very well received. So
Yeah.
you know, I think families and parents appreciate it. They only want what's best for their children, and they only want what's best for their family. And every time I've done it, and Canada Day is another example, especially at playground, where those parents are struggling and they really want their kids to have everything and be as healthy. They are the most thankful, and they're always the ones to say thank you. They actually say it. So.
Go ahead. You got a question?
Danny, we were there Misty and Frank, we were there for the original hot dog to apple.
Oh.
Yeah, you're the most difficult ones to get of the
Wow.
public.
We were getting apples thrown at us, weren't we,
You can
Dan?
change. Yeah.
Okay, and
Yeah, we're not done. I'll keep going.
I got one quick
So
question.
there is
though.
that part of the policy
Oh.
where there is some leeway there. Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead with your question. Go ahead with your question. I'm the one that ran out to the restaurant and picked up a hot dog for one of the ladies because she was so upset. Okay, go ahead. What's your question?
No, that's it. And hopefully Jane and Misty, when we get to the end of the presentation, can we use like a real life example? And we got Gil still sitting here in the audience. Like,
Yeah.
what would you encompass the canteen? And I'm just saying at the Mariner Center, looking at
We're going to talk
like
about that
in a couple of years.
very
Okay, good.
Great detail, actually. So we also have a best practices section. And this was things that didn't fit in the policy, but we really wanted to encourage and address. One being local, eat local. Obviously, healthy food is often seasonal food, and seasonal food is local food. So we want to encourage people to use local. Food and packaging, that's just to be environmentally friendly. Obviously, we don't want to use a lot of environmentally unfriendly products in what we do, so that's just a piece that goes with that. Municipal grants. Now this part is the example I can think of. If you have two very equal project proposals in front of you, and one is planning to serve just hot dogs and pop, and the other one is planning to make a few more healthy options and more choices available, I'm hoping you have a point system that would encourage this one over this one, everything else being equal. That's where we're thinking with municipal grants, as well as make it easy for those community groups that are looking to make changes and provide a healthier quality of life and lifestyle to those groups. Maybe they need some different supports that can be included in your grant program. Food as a reward punishment, that's one I think of in day camp more than anything, is that we don't give, for beating the other team, we're not going to give them a treat and then not the other team. So it's a practice that's gone on for ages and we never really question, but we're training our kids to think differently about food, and it's not fuel, it's a reward. And sponsorship. Now this item basically says that we seek sponsorship from companies that have healthy options, which is, I don't think, very limiting in this day and age at all.
You don't understand what? Which part?
What our function is, what our expected function is.
For the outcome of this?
Yes.
To support the policy, or not support, just to support. Yeah.
I'm going to let you finish.
Okay.
I didn't want to interrupt.
So there is an implementation plan that we have created to go along with the policy, knowing that a policy isn't going to be implemented like that. So we have a timeline of over 3 years, and so that will allow for a gradual yet noticeable shift in increasing the healthy food options and reducing the unhealthy food options, and gives time for people to get used to the policy and to give time for education and training and so on. So year 1 and 2 would be increasing the healthy foods and reducing the minimum, removing the do not serve foods, and by the end of year 2, aiming to remove deep fat fryers. Year 3 would be, by the end of that year, is that we're meeting the policy where there is 50% maximum nutrition foods, 40% moderate, and then the 10% minimum nutrition foods. And we're really happy to say that we actually have funding to support the implementation of the policy. So we have received a grant of almost $15,000 from the Department of Health and Wellness to implement the policy in Yarmouth and Shelburne counties. And so part of that proposal was to, I guess, pilot the policy in 3 arenas. That would be Shelburne Arena, Barrington Arena, and we're hoping Mariner Center. So far, Shelburne and Barrington have agreed to work with us. The other piece would be around, so part of that pilot would be working with arenas to work out pricing strategies, marketing and promotional strategies, surveying patrons, spectators, people who use the facility to find out what they would be looking for in terms of food, so we can make sure that we have something or something exists that people will actually buy. The funding will also go to host workshops and training sessions for community organizations and groups, sporting associations, and so on, so that they can have policies of their own or can work to improve the foods that they offer. Did I miss something with that? No. And, creating tools and resources. This is an example of signage that could be used with the funding that we have. So this is actual signage that exists in other facilities in the province. So it talks about food is fuel, healthy eating, maximum performance requires maximum nutrition. Our canteen offers healthy food. And then the one with Thrive talks about how you can make the healthy choice the easy choice, whether you're an athlete or a spectator. Kind of, we care about the food that we offer. Just as an example.
So like we were getting to, this is the policy draft, and we have taken years and a lot of discussion with all stakeholders and the residents, and have had input from everybody and a lot of community engagement around this. So our ask is the approval of the draft of the Healthy Eating in Municipal and Recreation Settings Policy and Implementation Plan. I will say, as far as our recreation programs, we are already doing it. I've been doing it for about 6 months with the seniors' dances, and they actually, I told them after about 4 months that what I was doing to them, and they went, well, yeah, but it's good. So, they've got lots of choices. They still get what they like, but they also get a lot, they're dealing with a lot of chronic conditions, specifically diabetes, and they're very thankful when they have those choices available when they go out in public and they don't have to think about how I'm going to limit myself all day if I'm going to come to a special event. So we are asking for your approval, and we really, really appreciate your consideration of this.
So I have a question. The money that Jeff knows exactly what I'm going to say. There's nothing like rink fries.
Right.
Nothing like it. So I understand there's such a thing as a convection oven that would do the same thing, only do them healthier. Yes. First of all, I do believe that we need to lead. We need to set the example, and we need to lead the way. I completely get that. I have a hard time dictating to people what they can eat, but I have no problem with saying you can get the same thing in a healthier format.
Yeah, we don't want to say we're dictating. However, by not having those choices, we are, in a way, already.
Yep.
So by giving them a healthier option, and we wouldn't just throw and say this is how it is. We'd want to do some taste testing and really get everyone on board with the fact that the product is good and will serve their, the wants and wishes of, I know that you'll talk that the oil is an issue, but people do like them. So it's if we can work out a way, I think, and find funding for that, which I've finished health and wellness as we can, that we could start looking at, getting people, especially the people that are eating the rink fries, to start taste testing and try a different product and get a healthier option in there. But that's just one little segment. You can keep that and still continue to do all this other work and provide different choices while still maintaining that.
If you would have said pizza with whole wheat crust, I was out.
Oh.
This is gentleman's going to speak. He has 5 children, so he can support that.
Yes.
Okay, I'll start there. As a parent of 5 children who attends the rink and recreation facilities occasionally, fairly regularly, I would appreciate more healthy options at the canteen, because it's one of the things that the kids always want to do is they want to swing by the canteen after public skating or after hockey or during a Mariners game. And it's tough to when you want to ensure that they're eating healthy and set a good example, to find things on the menu that really meet the grade. My kids don't drink pop, so there is chocolate milk, or there's water. But it's hard to find food choices, and it would be great if there were more choices in a facility like that. I don't think the policy, it's just my opinion, I don't think the policy goes far enough. I think if you own facilities and they're municipally funded and you have a leadership role, I don't think that you should be so easily willing to allow others to bring in and do whatever they want at your facility. I think there's a public good that can come from providing leadership and setting standards. And so I think it's probably a fair compromise to get the buy-in. And I think down the road you'll see municipalities go further than the policies that you're proposing today. My concern with this, and I've shared this with the presenters, is around the implementation. And I believe that they are sincere and committed to a successful implementation of the policy, and will work with our Mariner Center management and board and our partners, our customers, to see the policy implemented, I'll say seamlessly, because I think there are ways that you can introduce choices without people even noticing, perhaps, initially, that some things have disappeared, and then provide them with options that make them feel better about the experience while they're at the Mariner Center, and other recreation facilities. So you don't often ask this, but I'll tell you that I support this policy. I think it's perhaps past due, and it's an opportunity for us to show some additional leadership.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for the presentation. And Mr. You said you're not forcing anything on people earlier. I think you said that, right? And to me, I'm just reading here what it says in your first year. I had to get up for a minute. Then I'm reading the second year, I'm reading the third year. What caught my eye was the second year. You're not forcing people, but at the end of the second year, by the end of year 2, deep fat fryers are removed. I mean, I'll be 63 years old this year. Not that that makes any difference. I'm a cook by trade. I've worked in a lot of places. I know how to cook healthy. I know how to cook not so healthy. But when there's menus made, there are healthy menus made, not so healthy menus made, and people on fixed incomes eat what they can afford to eat. And I know that from growing up, a family of 16. And looking at this, and I get so pissed when I see this, that you say it's not, but you are restricting people. When you say 2 years we're taking the deep fat fryers out, why are you taking deep fat fryers out and all this other stuff when grown adults like myself and anybody else can make that choice if they want deep fat fries, if they want fish and chips, if they want that hot dog or anything? Maybe I'm reading this wrong, I don't know.
Yeah, I think a little. I think we're aiming to remove them. If it's not feasible and acceptable, however, I mean, it can be reworked. Yeah. There are other options available. We don't know what that product's like, and we need to get the buy-in from the people eating that product.
Yeah, but
sometimes that's part of the implementation plan for sure, and working with Mariner Center staff. The other thing is that we don't want to. We just want to increase the number of healthy choices, because right now, if I go, you're already dictating that I'm going to have trouble finding, if I chose to really change my eating, which I know what to do, it's just getting the willpower to do it.
Yeah.
And if I go out in public and I'm faced with those, yeah, it's hard. If I see something that I really enjoy as a healthy option on that menu, at least you're supporting me and trying to live that life.
That's each individual
Yeah, exactly,
perspective.
and I think that's
how
what
they
we want to
eat.
keep, is each individual.
Yeah, I'm always reminded by, I was a cook at the Yarmouth Regional Hospital for years, and there was different menus we followed. Now, I don't know if you work there, whoever works there, but I can tell you, it's just, they took everything out. Now they want to take out the pastries, the cookies, and all the other stuff, right? I mean, there is extremes. I think that people, yeah, but I'm saying people no longer become adults. They become people that are dictated to. And this is what to me, this is a little bit of that. To be honest.
We're here on this side being told that it's just easier to eat junk food, but we hope to make it a little more balanced, have the healthier choices, the easier choice, and that they won't be cost prohibitive, because like you said, there are families that are struggling and they'll make that choice based on finances alone, and that's just not right.
But I think everybody should have the choice. They shouldn't be, just because of me. I listened to what the CEO said, and I think if he had his way, there'd be no deep fryers, no nothing, no pop, no nothing. And that's fair, and that's fair. That's his prerogative. But I'm on a different flavor. Everybody should make their own choice. And once you start down this road, the road gets broader, longer, and then all of a sudden, bang, it narrows. It all sounds good, and it's real good. Yeah. But there is a cost to this, and there's a cost to people that sometimes can't afford to eat healthy. A lot of people can't afford to eat healthy.
What we want to do is make it
anyway,
as easy to eat healthy as it is to not eat healthy.
Yeah. I'm not against this.
In that playing field, so the choices at least become more about what do I really want to eat, not about what can I afford to eat. And it's more about what will make me feel good at the end of the day, and is it easy to get what I personally,
I think it's
I think we're saying the same thing.
Yeah, well, and I'm sure you are. It's probably me that's, I have sometimes hard getting my head around. That's why I spend a lot of time when we used to have sisters for school, and they used to say, well, your desk is outside the cloakroom, Daniel. You're out there before we start. You may as well go out now. But anyway, I'm not against this, but I have concerns. Let's just put it that way. And from what I read here, till you get to that point where you say, in 1 or 2 years, 3 years, and we're going to start eliminating. That's all.
Councillor Dawes?
Thank you, Your Worship. Are you looking for a decision of some sort from us today?
Well, I've heard that
what would you like us to do?
Today, so.
You want to go home?
Yeah, I would love a decision today, or at least, your support in moving to a decision is part of your process. So, yes.
I think the Deputy Mayor would like to speak now.
Go ahead.
Your Worship, you're in Committee of the Whole, so you're in an advisory committee situation right now. So in keeping with our practice, which I think is a good one, of not making the decision on the day of a presentation, I would suggest that no motion today, but I will put this on the agenda for the council meeting in February, and you can decide at that time if you're prepared to make a decision, or if you need more information, or you wish to defer the matter. So there will be no recommendation from Committee of the Whole, because I'm urging you to follow your own standard of practice. But it will be on your next council agenda, where you will be in a position to make a decision if you choose.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to know what the next step was.
Good.
And to save everyone's money.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I did multi-grain.
Bravo. It's good stuff, right?
Go ahead, Deputy.
Danny, if I'm allowed to tease you a little bit, if you adopted the recommendations, you could go from 63 to maybe 98 or 99 years of age, no problem.
Well, if I stick with your purposes, Jim, I'll make that.
Oh. You know what? You can talk about anything but put food in the mix, and everybody is crazy. Branding. Welcome, Ian. Go ahead. Oh. Excuse me. It's gonna rain or something.
Hello, everybody. Ian McLeod from Forum Media. I'm here today in response to a very spirited and colorful conversation about branding and identity for the town of Yarmouth. When we last met, which was in early December, we had a very animated discussion about a variety of solutions that were put forward as potential identities for the town itself. We fell in love with some ideas, we fell out of love with some other ones came back on the table, and here we are today to pursue the possibilities over an identity that begins with the statement, "on the edge of everywhere." I've explained the thinking behind this idea, and what I was asked to do was creatively interpret this in a number of different ways. So what I have today is essentially 3 options for your consideration. This might sound a little lofty, but hopefully our goal today is to choose an identity for the town. But I understand there's a lot of discussion and consideration that goes on behind the scenes. So what I'm putting forward is simply for your consideration, and if there's a decision shortly or not so soon, I can work with your timeline. The design development process has isolated 3 ideas, option 1 of which was inspired by conversation around constellations and the night sky. And our creative review then begins long ago in a galaxy far, far away. A galaxy, thank you. A galaxy home to a unique but lovable constellation that we're going to call Tolus, God of all duck-loving dogs. This can also be called Canis Tolus Yarmouthus. But we found this in our discovery, and we thought, what a wonderful idea to combine the creative elements of the sky into an application that can be then put into a Duck-Toller Days festival. So we're going to the sky to look for inspiration, have some fun with it, but also be serious in our intent here to talk about on the edge of everywhere and everything that's possible. So here you see a couple of applications for an idea. And again, this is just to illustrate the flexibility of this idea. We can always go back to the sky and find some other wonderful ideas, such as just below Tolus, we have a couple of other ideas. If I'm not mistaken, the one just below Tolus is Gourmet elegantus. Above that, to the right, is Ancora taunus yarmouthus. And over here to our right, we have Spiritus partius. Okay? So you see the potential. You see the potential right away, if I'm not mistaken. But that's right, and healthy, right. So let's take these ideas. Once again, we're illustrating the flexibility in the edge of everywhere by incorporating the constellation into a food and wine festival to our left, to my left. And over on the right, we have something that I'd like to think could be the actual nameplate constellation for the town of Yarmouth on the edge of everywhere, the anchor. And all to illustrate just complete flexibility with this idea. We can start with the anchor as the look and feel of the identity. We can gravitate towards something that speaks to food and wine. We can go to music. We can go to sport. Whatever your imagination wants, we can graft this idea into any application. And that's, I think, a wonderful testament to a very flexible idea. The applications are simply to demonstrate just how creative you can get with this concept. But we have something that states right away on the edge of everywhere. We're making a fairly bold statement, and we thought, let's be bold with our designs as well. In all seriousness, that's where this comes from. So there you have one idea we call constellations as the look and feel, if you will, for a possible identity. I'm sure there'll be questions, but allow me just to take you through the remaining options. There's the constellation Yarmouthis with the Y clearly in the sky. Again, it's an idea. I'm a little more favoring the anchor idea. It's a little more definite, but there's the Y in the sky of Yarmouth. Again, another application on the website, if you will. We've just taken the liberty of incorporating these ideas to let you see them in situ. There we are, grafting it to a recent ad that appeared in the Book of Lists and Progress magazine. I'm taking the existing copy and layout and just making some creative applications. Just for inspiration, I'm just going to read you this. Your customers are everywhere. Shouldn't you be? On the edge of Canada and the US, Yarmouth is home to a host of industries on the cutting edge of innovation and fully connected to markets around the world. This is the edge you've been waiting for. townofyarmouth.ca.
I love it. Just thought I'd say that.
So, again, here are the ideas all on one page, but again, it's just scraping the surface. We've just had a lot of enjoyment with this concept, and I think it's illustrated quite nicely here that anything is possible, and that's also a wonderful message to send to the world as well. Option number 2. Everything from here on in is a little more conservative and restrained, but I thought we'd lead with the strongest and we go forth. We're calling this option 2 the edge or shooting star. We've essentially taken the night sky again and incorporated it into the look and feel of the town. I think quite clearly here we're just trying to channel the charm of the southern night sky plus the Acadian culture, which is also reflected in the star as well. I think maybe if this idea has a few more days or weeks to percolate, I might be a little more definite in making this less of a constellation and more of an actual star. But I think there's enough here to make a decision, or at least enough to have a discussion on. Very clean, very elegant, very tight application which can be incorporated once again very nicely into the website. And of course, with the same copy and the existing photo from the Progress ad, we've blended it into the identity of the marketing material. And your banners that might appear on street lamps in the main area. Option number 3 is probably the most discreet or corporate of the new ideas we're discussing today, where we've incorporated the sun, the sunrise into the town's identity. Sunrise speaks to a dawn of a new day, the dawn of a new era of opportunity, new horizons. It's all very positive, very elegant. And we can then blend that quite nicely into all sorts of other applications, once again, here on the website. Once again, as a version of the Progress Book of Lists ad. And on street signage as well. So I've thrown a lot at you in a very short space of time, but I trust there's enough here on the table for discussion. I'd be happy to address any issues or questions you might have. Sure. So, once again, option one is inspired by the night sky, and we're making very creative, and we're taking creative license, if you will, with the sky. But by making this creative statement, we're also saying what's possible, and we're taking the themes, if you will, of the events and the attractions that you work very hard to build, and blending it in seamlessly, if you will, to those ideas. So it could be anything you want it to be, whether it's a duck toller days, it could be a food and wine, it could be music, it could be sport. Anything is possible with this idea, anything at all. And we've got some applications just to demonstrate that.
So what you're saying, what you're saying, what I'm seeing is the stars. But depending on what we're doing, so if it were we're having a big hockey tournament, we find the hockey stick and that type of thing, and it fits with anything. But we need one that we use as our main, right?
Sure.
And I'm still not sold on that.
That's right. You can have an anchor, if you will, not necessarily literally, but you could have sort of your baseline concept to identify the town, and then you can adapt it to whatever event or attraction you're hosting or having.
Okay.
And I think we're in the time that we've had to consider this idea since we've met, we've just realized just the almost exponential potential of this idea. The night sky is an attraction down here, and the night sky speaks to unlimited possibilities, which is a really nice reflection of the line on the edge of everywhere. It speaks to unlimited potential, thinking creatively, proactively.
Go ahead, Sam.
I'm having a hard time with this. At the night sky, I know that there's a lot of possibilities in the night sky. I just find that what I'm looking at, if I was somebody who was looking for a place to vacation, like I just don't see it in this that says, oh, I really want to go there because they have this. So I'm just not getting that warm and fuzzy of a reason why I want to visit Yarmouth.
Yeah. You would never see this application by itself. It would always complement a marketing campaign. It would always complement a message, if you will. So someone that would be considering coming here would be seeing a message over and above this, if I'm not mistaken. It would be hard to ask someone to consider coming somewhere just simply based on the logo. The message it would be sending to tourists or visitors, potential, is part of a bigger campaign. This is essentially a signature, if you will, on a larger message that you'd be sending to targeted audiences.
Well, you can do a brand that you're offering something that everybody can offer. Like, okay, you're saying the night sky, like say if it was the night sky, well, we could offer something, everybody could offer something on the night sky. I'm just, sorry, I'm just.
No. Well, in fairness, this is possibly not what you're expecting. You know, this may take a little time just to, I'm throwing a lot at you at once. In fairness, you may need some time to digest this. But go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say, the focus for me isn't the night sky. The focus is on the edge. It's that we're on the edge and that we can take the constellation or whatever it is, connect the dots and put that in with just about anything.
That's exactly right. The night sky is simply the platform from which to jump to the idea. We're not putting all our eggs in the night sky per se. We're using it to complement a fairly bold statement, which is on the edge of everywhere. So we're building a brand, we're building an identity, and this is sort of the first step in that. And it's a pretty bold step, I will say.
Well, we need to be bold.
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
Bold, but we have to also be able to deliver it.
You're here.
Well, if I could respond to that, if I've learned anything in the last 6 months of working with the town, you guys have a lot of very, very impressive plans. You're being very proactive. You're taking opportunities in the future of this town very seriously, and I'd like to think that what we're putting forward here is complementing that. We're hopefully keeping up with what you have to offer and what you're planning for the town.
Good.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I apologize for not getting in here earlier. I was on course. Just help me out. The sky that we're looking at, this will be a background as a highlight for promotion on the edge of everywhere, or are these little thingies that I'm watching here, which are play-ons of alleged constellations in the sky, they're going to be the play-on? I'm trying to get a handle. What is the logo?
Well, I guess just to step back a bit, the sky is simply an inspiration for this idea. The sky is sort of the influence or the impetus for the idea. I wouldn't worry about the sky per se. The statement we're making is on the edge of everywhere. We're building a brand and an identity based on a fairly bold statement that says we're on the edge of a lot of great opportunities. We're on the edge of Canada and the US. We have a lot to offer, whether you're coming to visit or you're coming to work or live. And we're going into the sky to bring out themes, if you will, that could speak to those opportunities, be it an event, be it a festival, be it a work opportunity, you name it. This has the flexibility to contour your message to whoever you want to speak to. That's the idea.
See, my only concern with the sky as such is that you cannot see the sky in Yarmouth in many cases because of the amount of lights. And this is my only thing. I mean, if you're, and maybe I'm reading this wrong, I'm looking at this lovely picture, which is obviously taken probably up in Carlton or wherever, it's stock photo. I'm thinking at it from, I mean, I'm looking at that last one. I come in very late, but I'm looking at that last one. At least there's an illustration that shows what our town is about.
Yes.
But the reality is with this sky concept, I don't see any, and I'm confused here. I know we're making a very bold statement, and I hear Her Worship's intention to make a bold statement, but I don't see our culture in the sky.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get a hand around our Acadian heritage, our maritime heritage. I'm trying to get around some of our heritage, which I don't see in the sky. I mean, our spirits are in the sky, and I can maybe as a spiritual point of view can see it from a spiritual point. That might be like a religious message coming out of this, that, you know, we have the sky and the heavens are our creation. Let me finish, and then you can answer. Just give me a second.
Sure.
But that's the problem I'm kind of coming to grips with this sky phenomena, and I'm curious. I just, as a tourist coming in here from Boston, Massachusetts, or from Korea, I'm staying at the Grand Hotel, I see the sky promotion, I walk out of the hotel and I can't even see the sky because of our lights. Whereas this would be a wonderful background for Bon Temps up in Argyle, or for the dark sky area preserve that's just been declared. That's a wonderful play on, or maybe we're trying to marry into them, and that's where I was going to. Is that the intention, is to kind of marry into what our sister municipalities doing in Argyle?
Yeah, what may be afoot here is there is an application in front of you, which I've taken liberty of building an ad based on it, but under no circumstances would you interpret that as the final idea. It's just an idea. It's an application for an ad, and I haven't been asked to do that. Okay? I've simply built an ad to illustrate what's possible. So my apologies if you're reading this sky as the package, if you will. You're welcome to use this idea any which way you want. I have absolutely no qualms about how you choose to interpret it. I'm simply taking an idea and showing you how it might work. So it could be another visual entirely. Don't worry about the sky. But I take your point. When I've been down here, I think 3 or 4 times now, I've had the pleasure of talking both with the public and with councillors, and the sky has come up. And it's come up time and time again. And I take that very seriously. I think someone actually went so far as to say there's a constellation down here that you can only see from Yarmouth or from this area. There's one particular constellation that's best seen in this particular area. And I just thought, what a wonderful thing to be able to say, that you're so unique that you have this one thing at your disposal, or you can access. And that was the door that opened to this idea. The sky speaks to unlimited potential. It speaks to exactly where I think you guys want to be. You're opening a door of opportunity to welcome business, to welcome visitors. And the sky seems to be a very nice theme to build that message on. That's where it came from. So I don't want you to take it too literally. I'd love it to be a sort of a figurative message more than a literal one. So I hope that helps, and I hope I haven't created any confusion. Yeah.
Neil, what do you think? Yeah.
But if I imagine a landscape, I think about all the touch points that the town of Yarmouth can have using that foundation of on the edge of everywhere. Okay, so it can be used certainly in events, it can be used certainly in business, it can be used certainly in policy, as you guys have talked about today, and you're trying to be bold in your policy amendments for what we eat and drink. We're trying to attract events that may seem out of reach for us, but we managed to do them. So I can see the use for that, that's for sure. That makes any sense.
No, it makes sense. And I hear what the councillor's saying too about the, we just don't want it to get mixed up with the dark skies in Argyle, and because that's not who we are, but that's not what I saw.
Right.
I see the sky's the limit. That's what I see, but when somebody else, when you brought that up, we have to make sure that that's not what people see. But the other two, this is just my opinion, the other two are out. They don't even touch it. But I understand where you're going.
Sure. Once again,
just for me. Just for me. Yeah, no.
So.
Well, we might have, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Got to make up for all that time I missed talking, Your Worship.
Yeah, well, don't make up too much.
Personally, and again, I just saw these, I love the last one, the horizon. Because the horizon is morning, the horizon is afternoon. I like your play on the O. I love that whole nautical theme, and again, we can still play with things. And it really captures, I mean, and visually you can have a field day. We have some of the most remarkable sunrises and sunsets in this community going. It gives that idea of restfulness, it gives that idea of peacefulness. What a lot of people like is that laid back atmosphere, which we excel in. How many times I've heard people say people are asleep behind the wheel here, it's so calm and quiet here in Yarmouth, you know, and this kind of shows it. So from my personal perspective, I just saw it a few seconds ago, I absolutely love the last one. The horizon is really, really nice, and the colors are nice, and it's really neat. I haven't seen that play on that O before, and that's kudos to you on that. That's really making a nice, clean statement. You can almost work on that just as a logo by itself.
Okay.
Go ahead, Deputy.
Maybe just a comment. I'm not sure that I, from a personal point of view, qualified or capable of choosing. I certainly have, through the years, have admired the work of you, or not you, but other people who did similar work that I've been part of. And whatever we choose as a council, I think, has to translate into how we display it and promote it. And and it should be easy to have it printed, developed so that it's and it is striking, but at the same time easy to look at, easy to interpret.
Okay.
And so you're getting there. You're close, from my point of view. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim.
That sounds like you're close. Take another stab at it. Is that fair? Am I wrong in saying that? Should go take another stab at it? 'Cause I just, one of these days you're going to just put it on the screen and everybody's going to say, that's it.
Yeah.
Well, not to push it, but that I think what he's doing with this play on the words, I love it. I mean, I think Halifax has done that. I don't know if very many municipal units have done this concept, but I know a lot of people were kind of skeptical, Your Worship, when Halifax brought out their play on the word Halifax and how they developed it. I love how he's done it here. It's an eye catcher because you immediately got to stop at the word and say, what's that? What's missing? You know, and then you get the O, and then you get that. And I love how you did the horizon. It can be a sunset or it can be a sunrise. Gorgeous.
Okay.
Yeah, you might have to go. Just, I don't know where we are, but I get what he's saying. I'm just not. I think like on the edge. Like something in me just say when I look at it, I know, yeah, right, we're on the edge, but it's just it. Councillor Dennis.
Sorry. Okay.
As I said on the other one, it didn't give me that reason why people would want to come here.
Okay.
But on the last one, with the sunset and the peacefulness and the water, that's something that we can offer people. And that's what we can guarantee that they'll get when they come here.
Councillor Dawes.
Thank you, Your Worship. When I looked through these, I told my colleague, first thing, I said, I like the last one, I like the sun. Didn't I? It's, from what I see, this is telling the people what we are telling you to tell the people.
Absolutely.
I like it. Take it sun up, sun down. The only thing that I immediately found difficult to read was on the edge of everywhere against that backdrop, against the sun. That was all.
Yeah.
That was all. And my first thought when I saw that was, oh, I like the play. I like the O, how you did the O. I agree with my colleague. And my first thought was, if we had the profile of the Earth, and we are right there and have a star shine on that, or a light shine out from it, I don't know. I don't know. I like this.
Okay.
I do. Thank you.
See, I guess
I see a
I'm-
lot more that you can, a lot of potential with this.
Right.
For you. Thank you.
Go ahead, because yeah.
Ian, the word Yarmouth, and on your different pages here, can that be moved up a little bit in so that it's more part of the whatever?
Yeah. And just in fairness, I may be overreaching when I put these applications, these ideas into applications. It's simply as an example. So in the end of this process, you'll have an idea that whoever you engage in to do your marketing will put a little more time and attention to those applications. So if anything, I may be a little guilty of rushing that process, but I take your point. A fair amount of care and some brand guidelines will go along with this so that some of these issues that you're raising are considered. It's very important that once we have that identity, that we have a set of rules and guidelines that protect it when we apply it to flag signage, when we apply it to print, whenever we put it somewhere, just to protect the look and feel of the idea. So you're pointing out some deficiencies which I'm guilty of, but I promise to correct by the time we get to that finish line.
I always think of Yarmouth as a nice place to be where the land and the sea and the sky meet.
So,
Sorry, Natalie.
so I feel like I'm sitting here by myself, but I have to say this, and I respect what everyone's saying, and everybody respects what I'm saying, I guess. But I'm looking Yarmouth on the edge of everywhere, and then we have a horizon and a sun on the edge of come to us because we can deliver a nice sunset. Who in the heck can't? Really? So I'm sitting here saying, is this about who we are and what we can deliver? In which case, that's not where I thought we were going at all. I'm sitting here thinking, when we grow up, who do we want to be? And we're going to have the nice sunset, and we're going to have the same as, you know, when you first came up, and we're not the hub of anything because everybody and their dog is the hub of everything, and everybody has beaches, everybody has sunsets and nice stars and all those things. So I guess maybe I'm the only one sitting here saying, this is not about what we can offer. It's about who do we want to be. And we're so, on the edge of everywhere is so close to what I imagine us, like even the app thing, Neil, like even, we're just on the leading edge of so much stuff for a small town. And you know, the small town that has the biggest hockey tournaments, that has a world-class app, that has, you know, all these things. This is who we are, or we can be the town with the nice sunset. Doesn't even come close for me, but that's just 1 of 7. Then can you meet us in the middle? If I say, see ya?
Well,
Am I off? Well, we got one stab at this, and I'm telling you, if we want to be what we've always been, then let's go with it. If we want to be what we can be, then we need to do something different. This is... You have to help us out of our identity crisis.
I think I might have created one.
No, you haven't. It's that we always, we've just seemed like we just fall into what's comfortable.
Right. What I took away from the last meeting was that you guys are sort of the guardians of what comes next. So what you're laying down here is what others will live up to.
Thank you.
And that really, you know, in my drive home, that just kept coming back to me time and time again and inspired another idea, which on a personal level I hope to pursue. I found that evening with you guys to be extremely inspirational. So That's the thought that I would leave you with. It's not what you want to be or what you are today, it's what you want to be tomorrow. Do you want people talking about you? Do you want people to remember you? Do you want to leave a message that goes beyond the page? I see an idea here that will get people talking, that will allow you to shape and shift your message to a targeted audience and say something that's very, very important to them and to you. That's where I'm coming from with this idea. That's what speaks to me.
Who's on? Councillor Langell.
Thank you, Your Worship. I hear your concern, Your Worship, on this, but your points about, and again, where do we want to be in the future? Well, where we want to be is maybe where we are now is not a bad place if you look at it from a tourist perspective and from a visitor perspective with people coming into the community. I spent 2 weeks in Jamaica in early December in this little community that is absolutely nothing. But right now there's hundreds and thousands of people in it. And the biggest message is don't tell anybody about where we are, because we don't want people to come here because we have enough now. They don't market, they don't brand, they don't do anything, which is a statement. And what's their selling point? Exactly what that last page was. The rustling sea, the roar of the ocean, the salt water. We've got to remember, and again, I know in your research, why did tourism begin in Yarmouth? What was the whole impetus for Lorne E. Baker in 1884, who was the father of Canadian tourism, to start tourism in Yarmouth? What was the draw in 1884? Salt water and fog. That drew the New York and Boston people here. And the roar of the sea, because I disagree with Her Worship. A lot of places don't have that roar of the sea that we have. A lot of places don't have the sunsets that we have. A lot of places don't have the fog that we have. Those are interesting traits that a lot of people leave with very positive memories on. And those are good things. I mean, the most remarkable thing I remember in my vacation was the sunsets and the sunrises. And there's awe-inspiring. When I look at the promotional literature that we have from Nova Scotia Tourism and from YASDA, a lot of it focuses on our sea and our heritage, our water, our tradition. I'd hate to see our brand move outside of what's going on in that brand. And I kind of think what you're doing with that last one is really bringing on board very close to what those other messages are, and it's nice to follow along suit. And this isn't the end-all be-all. We can change this in 5 or 6 years if we want to, or whenever. And it's a build-on statement. So to me, I just like that little play with the O and then go with it.
So can I ask you a question? This is not just about tourism. This is not by a long shot. This is about getting people to, exactly, more so. Yeah.
I mean, I'm being engaged by your economic development officer to do this,
exactly.
And your chief administrative officer. Yeah. There's a bigger picture to consider here above and beyond tourism, and I'd like to think that we're trying to come up with an idea that will do the talking regardless of the industry or sector that we're trying to engage. It's got to have that walkability to go from here to there to everywhere, and allow you to say something that's memorable above and beyond location and tourism. That's certainly the message I've taken away from the previous meetings we've had.
And just to take it a step further in what Your Worship was saying, and I think the feeling that she wanted to get out of On the Edge of Everywhere is all you had to do is look at the Redwood Cup when we had the hockey game down on the waterfront. I went halfway through the hockey game home. I said, man, I got to see this on TV because this is neat. And I got home and watched it on TV, and they had the views from above, so you get to see the hockey game on the wharf, or on the parking lot next to the wharf. You got to see the waterfront. You got to see 3,000 or 4,000 people down there just going crazy. And they're not, there wasn't even a team from Yarmouth playing, I think, or from Nova Scotia playing in the finals, right? The place went nuts, except for when, Jim, me and you were playing in the celebrity game when Jim got pushed down. They had to take out John Cunningham for him, but I think that's the kind of feeling that you want. We're on the edge of everywhere. So we can do events better than anybody, and that Redwood Cup just proved it. Just the site and the feeling this community had when we had that game on the waterfront is, if you could encapsulate that or capture that in a slogan, and I think On the Edge of Everywhere's is good, I like it, but if you could, I don't know, if you maybe, Ian, ask maybe Rick Allwright, if somebody, just to have a look at that. There's got to be a copy of that game somewhere, just to have a look at that feeling that this community had. And if you could put that on a poster or a brand, you'd have a winner, I think.
Yep. Somebody else had a light on. Go on. Go ahead.
One final comment. We're hearing from the politicians, and sometimes I'd like to hear from, not now particularly, but staff, you know, Jeff, some of the others, as to what they think. And so with that said, we should move on, Your Worship.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
No matter what happens here, we, like all of us, really appreciate everything you bring. Everything you bring. Thanks. Okay. Phew. Council meetings, bylaw, agenda, policy. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to make a motion that this be referred to the Bylaw Review Committee for action.
Can do that. Second. Moved and seconded. Questions been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Electronic voting. CAO, go ahead.
This is just for information today, but just to advise you that there are some activities beginning now province-wide around preparing for the next municipal election, which is less than 2 years away. And one of the decisions you'll be asked to make fairly shortly will be around the use of electronic voting in the next municipal election. What I would do for the next committee of the whole meeting, if time permits, is to generate a report for you that talks about some of the pros and cons that we've experienced when we went down that road in the last election, and some of the statistics around that. So it's just for information today.
Thank you. Building inspector training feedback. Go ahead.
Your Worship, there's some changes proposed in the way that building inspectors are trained in the province, and there is some information about that attached to the agenda. Our building official has reviewed it, and I think has a favorable opinion about the way forward. And so there is an opportunity for councils to make comment on the proposed changes, and that is outlined in the memo from the Office of the Fire Marshal. If you've had a chance to review this, I urge you to consider providing some feedback. If you have any questions for our own building official, she's present to take your questions. Sorry? Oh, Laura Lee, would you like to come forward?
Hi.
Laura Lee, could you introduce yourself to the council? I just realized it's the first time you've been before them.
It is. Laura Lee Atkinson, building official for the town of Yarmouth. Previously with the municipality of Argyle. I was there for a few years. Thank you.
Thank you, Worship. I've looked at this, and just a quick question for Laura Lee or the CAO. From what I'm reading, we're trying to get some more consistency within the building inspectors province-wide. Is that a fair interpretation and regarding certification? And in our particular case, will this, which I see as a very good thing, in our particular case, will this mean more training required for yourself, or are you all pretty well up to snuff on this?
No, actually, I've got all the training that's required in order to permit me to inspect any building in the province right now. This would make it more consistent nationwide rather than provincially. Right now, legislation dictates you have to be qualified in order to do building inspections. Municipalities and towns have had problems in the past hiring qualified people to do that job. There was a limited supply of inspectors. It became a problem. Municipal Affairs approached the Training and Certification Board, asked how it could be changed. So this working group pulled together. And they came up with, I think, 12 recommendations of things that would change to make it easier for people to become qualified to do this. One of the things they are introducing is 3 levels of inspectors right now rather than the 2 existing, so that you would have your first level 1 inspector would only be required to take 4 courses to be introduced to do houses, and they could be mentored by a neighboring qualified building official to do more work and continue their education to become qualified to inspect larger buildings. Does that answer your question?
CAO?
Laura Lee will correct me on this, but I believe when the qualification initiative began, it was delivered through courses that were developed specifically for building inspectors in Nova Scotia. And so the supply of those courses, the development of those courses, the provision of those courses was one of the bottlenecks in the system in terms of getting qualified people. So you had a pool of applicants when you had an opening. This model is quite different, and it's simply creating a test. And you go out and you get your qualifications, maybe through some courses that are available, but by whatever means. If you can challenge the test and pass, I believe you are given your qualification. So they've gone away from this is the required curriculum you follow to here's the test. You challenge the test, and if you are successful, then you clearly are competent to reach that next level of qualification.
Good. So was this all building official review?
That's all part of the same.
And the fire marshal interim report? That's all part of it? Oh, I see, right here, okay. Good. CAO?
Oh.
You have your-
So again, the opportunity here is that if you believe the changes in the model with the 3 levels of qualification and the mentorship piece, as well as the delivery of the test versus delivery of the courses, is a better model. That kind of comment back to the province and back to this working group would be positive.
Okay,
Please.
so let's do that, yeah. Go ahead.
Whatever you just said works. I make a motion, Your Worship, that we write to the province extending our support for the recommendations for the building certification for our building official within the town of Yarmouth and nationwide.
Second. Moved and seconded, discussion? Question's been called, all those in favor? Aye, contrary, motion carried. Thank you, Lorelei. Kiln Building Heritage Property, so we're looking for a motion to designate it as heritage building.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to make a motion that the town council requests that staff make an application to the Heritage Advisory Committee for the designation of the Kiln Building on Water Street, Yarmouth as a municipally registered building.
Excuse me.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Councillor Dodge, you're on.
Thanks. Thank you, Your Worship. I was going to make that motion with a question, and I'm sure that everyone here can answer this. We are making application for the municipal designation. We are also going to be applying for provincial, are we not? And if so, could that be done at the same time?
Okay, so I just asked Janet to look into that, but go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Councillor. The intention is if the motion is go for a municipally registered building. I was in conversation earlier this week, and I don't know if I briefed you on that, Mayor Mood, or not. I did have a discussion with the Heritage Advisory Council in Halifax. The process for a heritage designation at the provincial level is a long process. It's not an easy one. And the recommendation that we seem to be getting, we're looking at about maybe a year down the road before you'd actually get that provincial designation done. Anybody who's got to that level takes a while. The municipal designation will pretty well do the same thing that we are seeking provincially, simply to protect the outside facade of the building. That's basically what we're doing. It protects it for a period of 3 years. it was recommended that the new property owner may wish to explore going for the provincial heritage designation. That would be much better for the new property owner to do that. There's not much difference in the restrictions between provincial and municipal, but it would be better for the new property owner to go that route, because that would indeed open the doors for funding for that property owner. There's considerable financial incentives for heritage properties owners provincially, both business, commercial, and residential. So personally, I think we should just do the municipal registration, and even this process could take us 2 to 3 months before it's all done, because there's a number of steps involved. And if the building is sold before then, for whatever reason, which hopefully it is, it would be up to the new owner to decide if they want to proceed in that direction, but I assume they would be.
Did that answer, that sort of answer?
Sort of, yes. I thank you very much. I thank the councillor very much. I have another question with regards to the Killam building. But I had made reference to a question that I do have. I made reference to that earlier, and I believe that we are going in camera, are we not?
We've got something there, yes.
We are going in camera?
Yeah.
All right, because I do have a couple of questions with regards to the building itself, and it does have to do with dollars and cents, and our Chief Financial Officer will be in attendance, will he? All right, yes, please. Thanks, and I'll ask those questions. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Your Worship, I looked at this. I'm not against going and putting heritage plaques on buildings. I think it's a great thing, and the one down there is a good thing also. But when you look at the history of that building, and you look at the history of all Water Street, that building itself is unique like all the other buildings that surround it. The waterfront itself, the roads, the sidewalks were unique at one time. That is you got to keep in mind that those are working buildings, and we use that word working buildings. People that buy these buildings, that bought those heritage buildings when they bought them, they chose not to plaque them because it would limit them to what they could do to the buildings. The town of Yarmouth bought that building from a private owner, and took that building because it needed a lot of TLC, tender love and care, and they brought it back up to where it is today, and they've done a great job. But they wouldn't have been able to do that if they'd have took that building and made it a heritage building, because of all the add-ons that they've done in the back and around on some of them. I don't know that to be 100%, but I remember growing up that building there doesn't look like it does now. It did not. That's it in a nutshell. They added on and added on. So the reason why they didn't plaque it at that time, because it would have limited them to what they could do. There's enough restrictions, I would say, on that building right now, the way that it's deeded and the way that it is, that it limits what you can and cannot do in that building. When the building is sold, it's just sold. The building itself is sold. But what happens is, people that want to take that building, I can't see anybody wanting to change windows or change the shingles and add on it or anything. They probably want to keep it as it is, but I'm not speaking for the people that are going to buy it. But I had the opportunity to speak to a couple potential buyers that I talked to. They chose to come and talk to me on it, and they were quite worried that the town of Yarmouth was doing this now to that building, putting it to heritage. And what it does, it ties their hands, it limits them to what they can do for at least 3 years. We all know what happened here with the Zion Baptist Church. The town had to, in its wisdom, give them permission to do it. So on one hand, we're saying plaque it, and on the other hand, we're saying to whoever buys it, well, you got to wait 3 years before you can change the window design or anything like that, or you can do this or you can't do that. I don't know. He's shaking his head no, so I don't know if he can or not. I know that over on one of the streets in Collins P, somebody put new windows in, and they caused such a ruckus that they had to board to put the shutters up and board them up. But I don't want to get off topic. Anyway, Water Street is a working waterfront. The buildings are working buildings, and they should not be limited to what they can and can't do. Yes, we have to protect our heritage. I understand that. We have to protect the buildings that we have that are left. It's a heck of a lot different looking Water Street from when I was growing up to what it is now. And that's right from the sidewalks to the roads to what's left of the buildings. There's a few buildings that are left, but the buildings that are just as much heritage as the Killen Brothers building, what they done to them, they're beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So I would say council should really consider and really think on this. Do we want to tie developers' hands by just saying, oh, the town of Yarmouth didn't do it 25 years ago, now it's time to do it, even though the town of Yarmouth owned it and knew that it was in the town of Yarmouth's hands and they wasn't going to change a whole lot of stuff because they've already made the changes prior to anything else. So we should give it some consideration before we tie developers' hands on this. We never done it in any other ones. We have lots of heritage buildings on Main Street. Jim knows that. Jim had bought one and developed it. Jim had made a statement here, he wished he would have done things a little different to the building that he had. If I can remember that right, isn't that right, Jim? Okay, then I'll end it at that because I want to get home sometime today.
Go ahead, Deputy.
I'm going to agree with Councillor Danny. At this point, I'm going to vote against the motion. I think that it makes the building more difficult to sell and increases the restrictions, which make it more difficult to perhaps to maintain and or upgrade to exist in today's lifetime.
Thank you. Councillor Dawes?
Thank you for the second and last time on this. We do have our heritage officer here in the audience. Perhaps should we put her on the spot and ask her opinion? No?
She's not here.
Oh, all right. Then I take it back because I think we do need some professional input on this.
We need what? Yeah. Do you want to go get her? Want him to go get her? Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Your Worship, not sure the role of the heritage officer in this. We're into making a political decision, and I'm a little awkward with staff other than the CAO making recommendation to council. We normally, it's just a question, is that what is going to be concerning? Okay, I apologize. Yeah, apologize for that.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Aside from that, there are other considerations. You think that registering it as a heritage building is going to hinder the sale of the building? There are other hindrances out there. The rise of the tide, the falling of our province is sinking every year. The water is rising. We've got storm surges. We have all reasons in the world to blame.
We might have questions for you. Go ahead.
Did you want me to ask? All right.
Well, you wanted her, yeah.
Janet, we're not putting you on the spot. We're just asking we're just asking for information from you. That's all. Sure. Okay. We don't want your opinion. It's just input. It's just information. The pros and cons of registering the Killen building as a heritage building. In your experience as heritage officer, have you found that designation as a hindrance to selling a provincially or even federally registered heritage property?
Okay, you mean municipally or provincially?
I'm sorry, yes, municipally or provincially, sorry.
No, I don't think it's ever been a
No?
hindrance that I'm aware of. Municipal registration only restricts the exterior of the building.
Yes.
Not anything that can be done on the interior.
Yes.
It also doesn't restrict any use for a building.
Okay.
So it would just be the architecture on the exterior of the building that would be restricted
All
by
right,
being
now-
registered.
And there was an addition put onto this building some time ago, I think it was in the 90s, I think it was, at the back end. That would not have any bearing on the
Qualifying?
application?
I don't believe so. I
right.
don't think it's significant.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So there's already been work done inside.
Yes.
A lot of work, but that's not affected. If somebody purchases it, they can, it's just to maintain the integrity of the exterior.
It's the exterior only.
Exactly. Okay. So that's.
Thank you.
All right. Any more discussion? Questions been called? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Okay. Ayes? 4, 3. Okay. Motion carried. Call for proposals, real estate. So I think I sent around the letter to council with regard to, I don't know if it's a contract, but the contract we had with the real estate store. So the motion would be that a call for proposals be issued to real estate companies in the town of Yarmouth for the listing of town of Yarmouth properties for a 3-year term. Moved and seconded, or moved and seconded? The last one was a year and then extend for a year, so we're a little behind. Yeah, it's good, 3, yeah. Okay, any more, go ahead. You got a question? Do you have a question?
Thank you, Your Worship.
Yep.
I'm just wondering what, I know you get to, you work with a company, you get to know one another, it's very easy, you establish a relationship, a level of trust, et cetera, and sometimes it takes, it happens immediately, sometimes it takes longer than a year. That would, however, if we go with a definite 3-year term rather than a 1-year to renew, that would cut all other realtors out of ever doing business with the town.
It's all MLS. Anybody can sell
The
it.
listings, however,
Yeah.
would only stay with the
Yes.
realtor that we choose, and that would be for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, my last question is, why would we go with a 3-year term now rather than a 1-year, which has always been, which has been the practice before? I'm only asking for information purposes, that's all.
Okay.
Yeah, the last time we did this was the first time we did this, and so I think we learned from that turning around and doing it 1 year later would not have been, so we redid it, we kept it going for another year, and I think if we're going to redo the request for proposal process, I think 3 years is a reasonable period of time to repeat that process.
And the realty
Go ahead.
Thank you. This is number 3 on this question, so I'm already over my limit. And the realtors in town, they are aware of this and they're fine with it? They're in agreement with this?
Well, several participated last time, and so participated responded to the request for proposals, and so I would expect they would again. We've had, we've had inquiries, particularly since the most recent news about the town listing a significant property on Water Street. So we are beyond the limit or the term of the prior contract, and so it's appropriate to do this at this time. And I think 3 years would be a reasonable period of time to repeat it. And I expect we'll get a number of responses to the call for proposals.
All right. The realtors, they are aware of this change to a 3-year term and they're all right with it?
Yeah, we haven't put the motion through yet, so they're not aware of it. Does it? Yep, good. Okay, so the motion's on the floor. Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Nay. Motion carried. Pre-budget presentation, you have exactly 3 minutes.
What about new fire stations? We had new fire station to the agenda.
Nope. Yeah, what time? Yeah, me too.
Sorry?
Yep, nothing. We just said we're so excited to have this presentation.
All right, so I'll make this fairly quick and painless. I'll try. How's that? You tell me at the end if I have succeeded or not.
So, may I just ask one question first? I'm not asking for your permission. We'll have an opportunity, we're going to see this again. All right, I guess what I'm saying is, are we going to ask a million questions tonight, or are we going to hear what you're going to say and then?
That is up to you.
Okay.
So yeah, that's entirely up to you.
Yeah.
What I propose to do is there's a few new statistics in this chart, in this presentation, an updating of others. It shouldn't take a terribly long time.
Okay.
You're familiar with the charts from the 2 prior years, so it's just an update on statistics.
Okay, good.
And I'm going to talk a little bit about the FCI within
Good.
that. That's always quick.
Yeah, it's a whole.
Okay, so Town of Yarmouth, prior to getting into our budget process, one of the things we do every year, we've done for the past 5 years, is kind of do a review of internal and external indicators to kind of get a feel for where we are. And we've received some data from assessment services and internal sources, as well as the province, to be able to update and provide this presentation. So generally speaking, put Town of Yarmouth in context, these statistics provide you some idea of where we sit relative to other towns. We are the 5th largest town in Nova Scotia, behind Bridgewater, and Amherst, New Glasgow, and Truro. We are the 5th largest town. And so of the 30 towns in Nova Scotia, the average town has roughly half as many dwelling units as the town of Yarmouth. We are slightly bigger geographically. Our operating budget is more than double the average town, and our taxable assessment is almost double the average town. So in towns in Nova Scotia, we are on the larger size. Population trends, there's really nothing to update there. There is no more recent data than what we've looked at before, but we know intuitively that our population has been declining. We saw this chart. We don't know that. There's no more update statistics. This is intuitive observation. We know people have moved away to work. We know families are smaller. So we believe our population is not, at this point, increasing. We don't have statistical confirmation or otherwise. So this chart from 2001 to 2011, which we saw last year, shows changes in population over that period of time. And what you see here is that our youth population and our prime working years population were in decline, and our retirement years population was actually on the upswing. And so that's a factor of 2 things. One, people getting older, but the other is people moving away from work and people having smaller families. And perhaps people moving into town in their later years in life because of the convenience and proximity to services such as the hospital and groceries and so on. I see a flashing light, so.
Oh, sorry, just if I have.
I think a comment, if I got to being part of that group, that I kind of disagree with you, CAO, on this, because people between the age of 55 and 70 that we're seeing come into the area are coming in as pensionable income, but are also coming in second businesses. So they're actually, when a comment is made, they're not working. A lot of them are working. I was in a session this afternoon with 2 people who were in their late 60s, who are now in a second career.
My father-in-law's in his 80s and still going
Exactly.
strong.
So I mean, so we, young people like Jim who are almost 55, may be thinking of retirement. But I mean, the reality, some of us guys are still hanging around there. So just as a comment.
Yep. No offense intended. Okay. So other demographic information. So changes in our population. Again, this is from the province. Our population decline was at 5.6% versus 1.9% for the average town. The next statistic here is very concerning. Median household income, town of Yarmouth, $46,000 compared to approximately $35,000 in the town of Yarmouth. So that's telling you that our median household income is about 25% lower than the average town. What?
Ah, I'd like to be at either one of those, okay? Keep
Okay.
going. Yeah.
Employment participation is about the same as other towns, and education beyond high school is 4% lower, at 46% versus 50% for the average town. Internal indicators, so some of the things we look at internally to see how things are going, we look at our tax base, we look at our receivables, our room levy, and our deed-transfer taxes, some indicators of what's going on in the community. On residential taxes, this is changes in taxable assessment. So this chart goes back to 2006 and carries us all the way up to this current tax year, 15-16. And I guess the most concerning part of this chart is the last 3 years, where our residential taxable assessment has been flat. You never want a flat line, at least not at that level. Flatliners are bad. So we did have a spike back in 2008, and that was due to reassessments that were done. Those were better times that we're in today. And so how does this impact our budget process? Well, this is an indicator of what's going to be happening with our revenue in terms of from the residential side. Residential tax rates, this is what's happened with our rates since 2006. In 2006, we had a tax rate of $1.86 per hundred of assessment residential, and for the last couple of years, we've had a rate of $1.74. Okay, so we've taken 12 cents off the residential tax rate over that span of time. Prior to 2006, we had done a significant increase in the residential tax rate of about 26 cents. Because back in those days, we didn't have money to put aside for capital, and we were balancing the operating budget out of operating reserves. And so the 26-cent increase was intended to put us on better financial footing, which it did. And as I said, the more recent history is that we've taken 12 cents off. So I want to talk about the CAP program, the provincial CAP program, which determines how much of the residential assessment is actually taxable versus your market assessment. So what happened as the CAP program sort of got started is there became a gap between the taxable assessment, which is the lower yellow line, and the market assessment, which is the higher white line. And what's happened in recent years, as you see, the taxable assessment has flatlined and market assessment has been sliding down, is the amount of the amount of assessment that we are unable to tax has been decreasing. And the reason the taxable assessment has been flat and not decreasing is because there is a cap. If we had no cap, we would actually be seeing our taxable assessment decreasing. Okay, so the cap is providing a cushion, but that cushion, as you can see in the last year, has become very, very thin and not providing much cushion at all. And so I would expect, unless something changes, if the trend continued on market assessment, is that the assessment base that you're able to tax on the residential side would be decreasing. To be more optimistic, it could take off and head the other way, but you know that's a possibility. So this is just another sort of recap of what's happened with the cap in terms of millions of dollars of assessment that was unable to be taxed between 2008 and today. And you can see that the line is dipped way down close, well, it's below $4 million now, and that is not a lot, it's not a large percentage of our residential tax base. So what's been going on the commercial side is, since 2005, is that we saw a nice growth in commercial assessment. It leveled off. It decreased, and the last couple of years there's been a slight uptick. So that's good news. The last couple of years that we've seen either the market values of those properties increasing, or we've seen some development. It's a combination of the two. And there is no cap program on the commercial side. So in terms of the commercial side, if nothing changed with the tax rate, you would see a slight increase in revenue. The effective commercial tax rate has decreased the last couple of years, and that is in effect because of the initiative of council to transfer the sewer rates to, or sort of sewer costs onto a sewer rate. And so as we've been doing that, we've been eliminating the subsidy that's been provided through the commercial tax rate. And so we're projecting, unless something changed, that in 2016, 15-16, this year, the commercial rate would come down again slightly. On the receivable side, we have seen, and we talked about this before, our receivables were increasing. We were almost at 10% of our taxation in receivable. That has been coming down. We're closer to 9% today. That's partly due to increased efforts on collection, and it's also due to a change in policy with council. The receivable ratio, this just sort of recaps the same thing as in terms of a percentage of revenue. De-transfer tax. So de-transfer tax is 1% that's charged on every transaction of property that occurs within the town of Yarmouth. There are a few exceptions, but not many. And what you see here is that in 2010, our de-transfer tax dropped dramatically from the prior years. It stayed pretty stable. Last year we had a slight a significant uptick, but I can tell you that was entirely due to one transaction. Okay, so if I was to say what the trend is outside of that one transaction, it remained pretty flat. The number you see over 2015 there is where we are current year to date. There are still 4 years of de-transfer tax, 4 months of de-transfer tax to come in for this year. So although these aren't the best months of the year for property transactions, I would expect that this year, 2015, the yellow line is going to take an uptick, not compared to 2014 where we had that one significant transaction, but compared to the prior 4 years, it will be up, and that's good news.
You want to ask now?
Yeah. Just one quick observation, or whatever you want to call it. I was never in favor of this. Had I been sitting around council at the day, I would have never voted for this because it's a tax grab. It's a hardship, especially and it affects all new homeowners or people trying to get into business or buy businesses. I know it's the thing that you like because it fills your coffers up and fills the town's coffers up. But I think it's a tax that it places a hardship on people, especially first-time home buyers, when they go to buy a home. They get nothing for this tax, nothing whatsoever. I just want to put it on the record or whatever. If I had my way, which I won't get it today, and I'll probably never get it, this tax would be gone because it is a hardship on people. I think it's an easy way to get money, but it's an awful thing for first-time home buyers. That's all I had to say. And it won't make any difference, but that's what I had to say because I never had the opportunity to say it before. This is the first time. Thank you.
Yep, go ahead. Like he said, he's not getting his way today, so keep going. Just teasing you, Danny.
Room marketing levy. And so the room marketing levy is the $2 that's collected on every room night sold within establishments with 20 rooms or more in the town of Yarmouth. And the number of those has decreased over the years from, I think we had a high of 9 when we introduced the tax, and now we're down to 3. So the good news is, and we've had to project a little bit here because we're trying to provide you with the most up-to-date information, but all of the tax is not in yet for 2014. But based on the trends, we kind of projected ahead and said, look, this is where it looks like it will land. So you see a nice uptick there. It is not a precise number for 2014. It will be in the next month or so. And that's an estimate. But it's clear that it is going to be higher than it has been the last 3 years.
Excellent. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just the CAO, and just further to this thing of 2015-16 fiscal year, where are we at with YASDA? Are we going to get an update on where they're at with looking at that room market levy? I mean, there was a discussion we had around the table about expanding that to bring in other property owners in the next year because, as you said, we're down to 3, and we've got 3 businesses who are bearing the shoulder of the whole tourism industry more or less in this room levy bit, and we got other proprietors who are not. And I think we should be looking at more equity across the board. I understand they were reviewing that. Is that happening, or is that on the shelf?
Okay, so the room levy committee, we went through fixing the governance around that, so they were officially established and had a clear mandate from council. They've entered an agreement with YASTA, so they are full partners, have board representation now at the YASTA table, which is a positive thing. They're meeting next week, and I know that the scope and span of the room levy was important to that group, and I expect it to be on the agenda next week. So now that we've put a couple of those other initiatives to bed, I expect that to be coming right up. Yep, and I can update you at council if you wish.
Thank you.
Okay, financial condition index. This is the set of indicators that the province and AMA, UNSM have developed. It was used, there were proposed uses within the fiscal review, you'll remember. As I've said, they make for interesting discussion, and that's their best use. It does give us some level of comparability to other towns, and sort of gives us some benchmarking that we can use. So this is a complicated slide, so and it's not like we've seen them before. So what happened last year is we had 1 year, the 11-12 year for the financial condition index. Service Nova Scotia undertook, under the minister's direction, to produce two more years of indicators for this year. So there was a lag there that was seen to be really longer than it needed to be, and so staff, under the minister's direction, have this year released 2 more additional years of indicators. So now the most recent information we have is 2013-14, which is really good. So what does this tell us? So just to explain how this goes, there are 3 sets of indicators. The slide we're looking at is just the revenue indicators, the 5 revenue indicators. The 2 columns to the left, you have your score. Now this is the town of Yarmouth score, and the next column over where it says average, that is the average of all towns. So